Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of the Sporting Chance podcast. While you're here, check out the sportingchancepod.com for all the flyest merch and a complete catalog of the episodes. And check out Clover Creek Canine on Facebook for performance canines bred by friend of the show, Sean O'Neill. Do yourself a favor, get a lurcher, get a special, get a truck terrier, whatever it is, you can't go wrong. And while we're at it, this podcast is brought to you by A Journey with Red Tails. Order the book by author Bob Glass at ajourneywithredtails.com. And for all of your tightest falconry equipment, check out midnightfalconry.com. And let's not forget mountainstatefalconrysupply.com for your premier East Coast falconry supply store. Let's not forget your boy, my boy, everyone's boy, Seth Roy, northmountaingoshawks.com for your parent-reared goshawk hunting partner for the 2025 hunting season. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Sporting Chance podcast. Let's discuss the elephants in the room. So I disclosed on a recent episode that my goshawk was injured after what we suspected was a collision with a tree in the forest while chasing a squirrel. And I'm sad to report that she passed away on Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry Christmas to me.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, she was a great bird. We had a season and a half together. I mean, she was everything you could ever ask for in a goshawk. We have plenty of witnesses who can attest to that, and she will be sorely missed. And then, if that wasn't good enough, this past weekend at the North Carolina Falconers Guild field meet, my red-tailed hawk met an untimely end while pursuing a rabbit.
It's always a rabbit, and I was there.
Casey got to witness it. So she was, probably 60, 70 feet up in a tree.
At least, yeah.
Rabbit just pops out of nowhere, and it runs. And of course, it runs into this old, leaning over, rusted, jumbled up fence that was just kind of half hanging there. It was like an old pig pen or dog lot on the corner of the woods. The only fence to be seen anywhere. And of course, the rabbit runs right into it, and she stoops out of the tree and just smashes it and breaks her neck immediately and dies in my arms.
Yeah, that one was rough because it was really, I don't think any of us really had any care in the world at that spot. It was just oak trees, big mature oak trees. And that was literally it. And there was like just this little tiny piece of fence. And of course, the rabbit used it to maneuver. And when that bird left the tree in typical red tail fashion, just pumping towards the ground from 70 feet up in a big old oak tree, there's no scenario where that bird hit that fence and didn't hurt itself very badly or kill itself. There's really no way around it. Or this would have just smashed the rabbit into oblivion.
Yeah, unfortunately, she did not get the rabbit. The little bastard got off scot-free. Hopefully a coyote, ripped guts out later that night.
It was rough, and everybody was. It was rough. It was sad. It's a great bird, and it's what we sign up for, basically, man.
This is the kind of thing that happens to wild red tails every day. We see them in the road dead. It's the same scenario. They fly after some prey and a car clips them when they're driving by. I'm sure countless red tails smash fences in the wild and die. I recall even in the most wild places like where Steve Chingren hunts sage grouse, they say fence collisions are huge problems with wild sage grouse just flying around. So fences are a dangerous thing that falconry birds and wild birds have to contend with. And, we can do everything we can to mitigate the risk, but we can't completely remove it because that spot seemed perfectly safe. And I'll be honest with you guys, my heart's fucking broken. I'm 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 struggling right now. I really am. I lost two incredible birds in what, 3 weeks tops, month max. I haven't done the math,
Yeah.
but I mean it's just like luck like nobody's ever heard, just the crappiest of crappy luck. And I had a lot of people really, good falconers that I respect have reached out to me and said, "Hey man, like your birds died hunting. They died doing what they're supposed to do. They didn't die of disease, they didn't die of illness. They went out healthy and fit and strong chasing prey." So I guess if they're going to go, that's the way to go, but I really wish our time together was a little longer. That's really all I can say.
Yeah. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
So, what can you do? I'm moving forward. I'm not quitting falconry. I pulled out one of the Passage Harris hawks that me and my sponsor, Bob Pendergrass, trapped. I was planning on breeding him with another wild caught Harris hawk, but I never got around to setting up the chamber for them. And that window kind of passed. So he was just sitting in a chamber. So I pulled him out. I'm going to hopefully catch a few rabbits with him before the season's over and my dogs. And my hope is to have a bird hunting at least, to go to the Jersey meet.
Yeah. Get back on the horse, man. That's all you can do.
Yeah. So if, who knows what my plan is going to be this next season? I think I'm still going to try. I want another red tail. So I'm going to try and find a really nice, good sized female red tail. I don't want a giant one, but like a nice 43, 44 ounce bird like I was flying. I'm game to maybe get another goshawk in addition to that. I always want to have two birds because, this can happen. A bird can die. You can be left with, you can be left birdless very easily if you just have one bird. So my luck was just complete dog shit to lose two birds like that.
Yeah. And none of them are your fault either, which is the crazy part. That's a crazy part. Because it's like, even with me, it's like, there's stuff I could have done. That pole was kind of sketchy looking and my bird got fried on it. The bird took the flight in the junkyard. Could have swung the lure and got her away from it, if I really wanted to. I mean, yours was literally just in the middle of the forest. Hit the trunk of the tree, hit a branch, like nothing around the bird, just forest, and hurt itself. And then with the red tail, it was like we weren't even expecting to kick up game there. We were just walking. We were literally going from like grass to oak leaves, looking for squirrels, and the rabbit just materialized under someone's feet and just ran, instead of under like, one of the shed or the equipment that was there in that person's yard, it just ran like right to that fence, like beelined it for the fence.
Yeah, it's just horrible luck. So
yeah,
nothing I can do about it. I'm struggling though. I'm going to be transparent. I'm really struggling with it. It's just, not only, it's not just like my season being more or less cut short and not having a bird to fly. I really cared about those birds a lot, man. I had an emotional attachment to them. I had a bond with them. Both of those birds were the envy of people who got to see them fly. My goshawk was incredible. That red tail was incredible. I remember you telling me the night before, Casey, when you saw that red tail, you're like, dude, you got to keep that bird. You can't release her. She's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just the calmest, chillest red tail, and then gets the job done in the field. Can't really ask for much more.
Yeah. So next season, if I cross your mind and you come across like a super nice red tail and you're in the area, hit me up.
Yeah. Or if you're just at your wit's end with a goshawk right now and you need somebody to take it off your hands.
Yeah. Let me know.
Yeah.
I'm willing to fail too with it.
Yeah. Or turn it around. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? So, but all of that is a tremendous downer. But I will say, despite the loss that I experienced, the field meet was just a love fest, man. It was the Sporting Chance crew was together, me and Casey together flying, I think at a field meet. That's the first time since the podcast started. And then I realized while Good grief. My parrot over here is going crazy. He just flew onto a shelf. Anyway, I realized we built a community.
Yeah, it seemed that way when I came down there. Everybody, I walk in to the meet and everyone's got Sporting Chance gear on and giving me hugs. I don't even know them. I'm getting to meet everybody. Just like the nicest people on the face of the earth down there, man. You have just the best people in your club down there.
Well, about 75% of them are the best people.
Right. There's always a couple. There, yeah.
There's always a couple bad apples.
Yeah.
But, and after my bird died, I was reminded of just how good most people are that, there are people that I've never really had much to do with, through no fault of anyone's own. We're just not in the same social circle. Come up and give me a hug with like tears in their eyes and tell me they're so sorry about what happened.
Yeah.
And telling me echoing the same stuff that we've said earlier about, hey man, that bird died hunting. You did nothing wrong. You did a great job with her. But, that's kind of, I never really thought about the goal for this podcast, but building a community of like-minded people is kind of something I always had in the back of my mind. And I feel like we're succeeding at that.
I definitely got that feeling when I was down there with everybody, and the enthusiasm for the show, the enjoyment people are finding in it, finding the guests. I mean, the connections we've made just through the show, interesting people going on hunts we never would, think of going on, that we're just going on and experiencing just because of a connection that we made through an interview. It's great, man.
People loving the merch.
Yeah, people buying the merch. And if you're not buying merch, you got to start buying some merch. Give us some support. But the merch is great. Yeah, the merch is great. People they're in the banquet, like everyone's like taking their sweatshirts off and putting on our sweatshirts and putting on t-shirts. And yeah, it was great. A lot of fun.
Our boy Mike was after the fact, he was like, bro, the Sporting Chance was all ganged up at the at the banquet. It's like we're all sitting together. All of us are swagged out wearing Sporting Chance gear.
Yeah.
We're all just like laughing and having the best time ever.
Yeah, it was good. Mike is like hilarious. He's like your hype man.
Yeah.
He's like cued into you. Every joke you make, he's like, ha, ha, ha. He's like, this is great.
There's the joke. But the president of the club said the next field meet's going to be February 15th, Valentine's weekend. And I said real loud, I was like, it's going to be a real sexy time. And Mike was like the only person who laughed.
Nobody laughed. And then Mike was like,
oh man. Yeah. He's ride or die.
Yeah.
And my apprentice won the Apprentice of the Year award. Shout out to Jen Bates, who does not listen to the show, but she's been an incredible apprentice and she deserves it. She's getting ready to finish up and be a general licensed falconer here shortly. So I'm very proud of her, very proud of what she's accomplished. So yeah. And let's not forget Bear Newcomb came up.
Yeah. Bear Newcomb came to the North Carolina meet. Pretty much on behalf of Meter, because he was there to film falconry footage.
Yeah.
So that was pretty special. It's pretty cool. It's the first, I mean, I'm sure that, I don't know if they've done stuff in the past to try to see if people have an interest in falconry, but this was like the first, where he had to get it approved by Meat Eater. They had to fund the trip and they sent him out there to film some falconry. And luckily we had a great group of people with us. We had Harris Hawks, we had goshawks, we had a red tail, and Bear saw everything, literally everything, the good and the bad.
Yeah, he did. He got an authentic view of what falconry is.
Yeah.
He saw game get caught. He saw birds not catch things. He saw a bird pass away. He saw it all.
Saw a dog get sprayed by a skunk in a hole.
He saw a redneck pull a possum out of a hole.
Yeah, that was hilarious. Did that thing break skin when it bit you in there?
No, it did not. I'd like to say that it did, but it did not.
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie. I kind of, I was working the hole with the dogs and Aaron's like, just stick your hand in there. I'm like, I'm not sticking my hand in there. He's like, use your glove. I'm like, you do it. He's like, fine, give me the glove. And they're like, everyone's filming. I'm like, don't post that anywhere. Delete that.
I should have been the one.
Yeah. And then Aaron stuck his hand in there and he was like stepping on Ginger. It was so funny. You were just in the zone, feeling around in there. And
I had no idea that she was biting me. I watched a video and she was biting me, and I was like, I did not know until I saw the video.
The video is hilarious. Poor
And then
Ginger.
I just shove Ginger away after she bites me.
Yeah, so funny.
And I'm telling you the truth, I did not know she bit me. I was so in the zone.
Yes.
For anyone, we're talking like inside. The dogs marked a hole. We had no idea what was in it. We thought maybe squirrel, maybe rabbit. They were going just ballistic on it. So we let them work it. They were going into the hole, but they couldn't get anything, and we could tell something was in there. So I took Casey's glove and I reached my hand in as far as I could go. I'm a big guy with long arms.
Orangutan arms, this guy.
Orangutan arms. So I was deep in there, It was probably like 3.5 feet. My arms are probably
like 6 foot in there.
I got big, long arms. I was reaching way back in there, and I felt something, and I grabbed it and just slowly worked it out. And I could tell pretty quickly once I got my hand around it that it was a possum. I just yanked it out in front of everybody, and everybody was applauding. And
yeah, it was.
I needed that big win after my bird died.
Yeah, but that was a long, uneventful hunt with Helga following us and being dumb. And
Casey's famous white bird.
Yeah, she's just like, she's just whatever. I can go on all day. It's like 1 out of every 50 slips she catches, and we were really trying to put slips in front of her. And the one hole the dogs get excited by, it's a skunk. And then the next,
which one? One of my dogs got sprayed good in that hole,
real good. And then the next hole, we're like, all excited. And then the next hole, it's a they're all excited, and I'm waiting for like a squirrel or a rabbit to like shoot out, and of course it's just a possum.
For anyone curious, I put the possum unharmed back in the hole.
You smashed it on a tree trunk and threw it in the trash. No, just kidding. No, Aaron was very, very, very insistent on putting it back where it came from.
Yeah, me and Teddy both we like possums.
Yeah, they're pretty easy to kill if you want to kill them. It's not much of a challenge.
No, please, for the love of God, do not count a possum as a kill. Yeah,
they just kind of sit there. I killed one with a goshawk one time.
They're helpless. I killed one time with a Harris hawk.
Yeah, it's just they just lay there and their stupid mouth is open. And
it's sad. They're pathetic little animals.
I don't know how they even live. I mean, like, how do they even like survive? They must have like 50 babies every year or something.
Yeah, I don't think anything wants to eat them. I don't know if any animals eat possums.
I'm sure they do.
I know a dude here who likes to eat possum.
Of course, in North Carolina.
He makes possum gravy, he said. He likes to cook raccoon and cover it with possum gravy.
Oh my God. That's...
Shout out to Brian.
I mean, they probably have good fat on them too. They probably do taste good. I mean, cook them right.
And then I was talking to somebody. I think I was talking to my friend Drew. And he said that he knew someone who they would keep possums at Thanksgiving, and they would feed them nothing but white bread for like a month, and then they would slaughter them and eat them.
Oh, I heard about that. That's like a common practice. They'll catch them, and then they'll put them in cages, just feed them like a pig, basically. Just feed them everything to get real fat, and then they slaughter them and then cook them up. I heard somewhere, like an old book or something, somewhere that they were doing that. Because they're easy to catch, so they would just grab them, just bring them home and throw them in a cage and just feed them the scraps of stuff and just let them get real fat and gross and then just pull them out.
Yeah, can't say that I have any interest in eating a possum.
No, they're not appetizing looking at all. Raccoons either. I wouldn't eat a raccoon. I don't want to eat a raccoon. They're gross.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be willing to try. I'd try any of them if it was cooked, but... So, yeah, the field meal was a blast. It's good to get together with the Sporting Chance community. All these random characters that are spread throughout. So, if you guys are listening, you're part of it. So, welcome aboard, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Unless you're hate listening, and we know you're out there.
Probably, yeah. I mean, when you listen to stuff, you're always kind of looking for a reason to get pissed off about something or whatever.
Yeah, but me and you were a couple of teddy bears. How could anybody dislike us?
I'll find something. But dude, I really enjoyed the meet. I really enjoyed the atmosphere of the meet. I've been to multiple, meets all over, and the the flat. I've never been to a NAF meet, but like not the flashy, but like the organized, very clean, guest speaker, tables with tablecloths on them, and your silverware and your water glass and this and the raffle, and like everything's all organized with mics and stuff. I really liked like the really like relaxed, like almost like a family dinner aspect of your meet down there. Like all the food was cooked by it was all game that was caught earlier that season.
Yeah, mostly by my goshawk and redtail, honestly.
Yeah. And you had was that Ben cook it all up?
Yeah, so the bulk of the rabbits and squirrels were caught by my goss and my redtail, and then additional ones were provided by Ben Shelton. He's the VP of the Falconers Guild down here, and also member of the Sporting Chance crew.
Yeah.
And in addition to my apprentice, she also provided some. And Ben cooked up a Brunswick stew, which is a Southern tradition. It's kind of like a barbecue based stew with like potatoes and carrots, and you can do chicken or pork, but the traditional version is squirrel and rabbit. So we did that.
It's like slow cooked rabbit and squirrel, and then it's pulled, right? He pulls it, and then
yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude! I ate like 4 bowls, and then while we were all hanging out talking, I started getting hungry again, and then you gave me a Tupperware, and then I went back to my truck and I called my wife, and say goodnight and all this and that. And I'm just sitting in there, and I see that thing just sitting there, dude. I like rummaged around in my truck for like a fork. I found like a fork. I cleaned it off, and I just ate the whole thing, like just sitting in my truck at like 11:30 at night.
And let's not forget the bear chili that my wife cooked for us.
The first night, yeah, Friday night.
Friday, yeah. So we had a special Sporting Chance community only bear chili, 100% bear chili. No, didn't cut it with any beef or anything.
No, you don't even need to. It's delicious. It's perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect. And that we completely cleaned that up. Everybody had like 2 or 3 bowls at a minimum.
Yeah, I was starving. I told you if there's any food left, just save me something, please. Because I was coming down. I was 10-hour drive, and I was starting to get hungry. And I'm like, do I stop? Do I wait? And
Ben also cooked up some jalapeno cornbread for us.
Yeah, I mean, that guy can cook, huh?
Yeah, I mean, he's a legitimate pastry chef. That's his profession.
Yeah, that was. And I mean, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so cool. It's cool that like he cooked the food, like you caught it, and like the whole banquet gets to eat it, and it just makes it so much of like a more special environment than just like some like tray of like chicken marsala that's like rubbery. You know what I mean? It's just different.
Yeah, I like it that way personally.
I do too, but I feel like if there's 150, 200 people there, going to be kind of tricky to feed all those people with one guy slaving away in the back.
Definitely. He had the backup pot of chicken stew, but you know what? I don't know if this is petty of me, but, and I got over it, but there's some assholes there that I'm not a big fan of.
Well, let's tell everybody, Aaron. Let's make sure everybody.
No, we keep it real here, right?
Yeah, keep it real.
So yeah, I mean, there's every falconry club in a state has got their grade A pieces of shit that they don't like. And North Carolina has that as well. And I felt a certain kind of way watching them slurp down my fucking dead hawks kills.
Yeah, right down.
You know what I mean?
Right down their gullets.
Yeah, just watch them slurp it down, and that's just. But I'm a believer in the state club. I'm a supporter of it. It's got to be democratic and open to people, even if you don't like them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not into that snowflake BS of excluding people because you don't like them because they hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
It's a club open to falconers. And unless you severely violate the law or, do something crazy to another member, then you can participate in it. I'm a believer in that.
Yeah.
So But I think it bears mentioning that it was a little unusual to watch them, especially the people like.
I guess it's not something you see every day. Somebody you don't really care for just slurping down your hard-earned kills.
Yeah, not only that, but like literally my birds who I mean more or less gave their lives for that food.
Yeah.
And then the same people don't even breathe a word to me with condolences about, them passing away.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath on that one.
I mean,
I don't know these people,
not,
first of all, so if anyone,
not from that caliber of person.
I don't know them, so
no, but to Casey's point and what I said earlier where he was like everybody was good, I said, well, about 75% of people are good.
Well, some of them you could clearly see they didn't want to introduce themselves, and I was talking to everybody that would talk to me, and I don't know who you're really referring to, but I can imagine the area of the room they were sitting in, because there was some hostility coming from that direction that I could just get the vibe of. I can read a room. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Some weird, there's a little bit of tension coming from that section.
But you know what? It was still a big love fest, man.
It really was, man.
We were all ganged up, man. We were just having the time of our lives in spite of the tragedy that happened. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a great time. And I can't imagine that I'm going to have another season this bad again. So I'm looking forward to next year.
Yeah.
And seeing what it has in store for me.
Yeah, man, I'm excited for you. But I said it before and I'll say it again. We release these birds back into the wild after we train them, and we use them for their natural intended purpose, which is to hunt and catch things. And, you really, I mean, it hurts. And I've been there obviously, but you can't release them back in the wild. And then when one of the statistics comes true, you have to be ready for it at any moment. And it can happen to any one of us at any time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of time really for most falconers.
No, it is. If you're flying a goshawk in a semi-urban or urban area, it's going to happen. But yeah, man.
Shoot. Well, I mean, these spots were totally rural, as we said earlier. So
yeah. And when I lost my bird, I got messages from people out west in the middle of nowhere telling me all the crazy ways their birds died. And I'm like, okay, so it could pretty much happen anywhere. Barbed wire, power pole, golden eagle, hitting the ground too hard, an old fence post that's hidden behind some brush. I mean, you can, you could lose a bird anywhere, anytime.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined now by Joe Hance. Welcome, Joe, to the Sporting Chance podcast.
Howdy, guys. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you. Dude looks like he's ready to just destroy somebody on Call of Duty right now.
No, actually not so much. That was my pre-falconry hobby, right? Played a lot of video games. Then that happened, and that was about the whole time played, taken out, right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
True.
It's hard to do anything else.
Joe.
So, Joe.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to.
Sorry, Joe. I was just going to say, Casey has talked up. Now, we try not to focus too much on head count here, but he said that you take a lot of rabbits with Harris hawks. Is that true?
It is. I guess it is true, right? I live in Minnesota, so we don't have quail. We have cottontail. We have some ducks, which is well chronicled to be slightly dangerous for a while here.
Yeah.
But again, I heard you guys talking about some risks when I came in, right? So I catch some ducks from time to time, but some birds out the car window, but it's kind of up here. You have to fly a reverse season if you're going to fly nuisance birds, because they kind of appear in the early spring and they're gone before the hawking season starts. But yeah, so a lot of rabbits with two male Harris hawks. That's been my cast. I flew one solo, and then I was offered a brother to him, and I took it for free and put them together as a cast. So
that's awesome. We were just talking about losing birds in the field. Have you had the unfortunate experience of losing a bird while hawking?
Yeah.
Or just losing a bird in general?
I've done falconry for 10 years. And I fly a lot. I fly probably more days during the season than I don't. So I've lost, I think two birds. So I had a red tail get electrocuted, got tangled up on a power pole with a squirrel, and then like literally on like a what would be actually it was one power pole away from where she caught her first rabbit too. It was kind of a crazy thing, but anyway, and then so she got electrocuted, fell down. That was that. And then I had another hawk, a Harris hawk, off a T-pole. That'll get it done. Chase a bird and flew into a manure lagoon. And it pushed the bird into the manure lagoon and or caught the bird in the manure and then ended up in the manure. And I like couldn't go in there to get the bird out. And in the moment panicking, you don't know how to like assess the situation. So my one piece of advice for people in a situation that they might be able to save themselves, the bird isn't just hit on the road or something, like chill, think about any potential option. You probably have a minute before something might happen worse, right? So take it, like sort it out. He was like 10 feet down on this big like walled in tank, and the top was open like a devil's swimming pool, but then 10-foot drop to like 3 feet of manure. And then he was swimming around in manure, and there was if I had thought about it, I could have thrown a pallet in and then put his lure on the pallet because he was clearly trying to come up with some way to get out of the manure. And instead I dangled the lure. He came over, he tried to grab it. I tried to hoist him up, from 10 feet down. He couldn't even get a hold of it floating in the manure. So like I said, just weird shit happens when you fly a lot of different areas, and in urban areas where we have most of our rabbits here. I've lost birds. I've almost lost a few other birds. My current Harris hawk I have had like an explosion on a power pole, like he had a transformer, and his transmitter blew apart, literally. And that was like the explosion we saw the fireball was like the transmitter being just vaporized, right? And he was standing on top of the transformer and he was unfazed. So kind of unbelievable in that regard to me. And he also went underneath a moving car, I think, one time, like a car moving 30 miles an hour on a rabbit. And he went he went in the radiator hole in the front of the car, and he came out the passenger side door hole. So he dodged that.
What?
He went in between. Yeah. I mean, if you can envision it, like the hawk went in the front of the car underneath, between the two front tires, and he came out on
while it was moving.
Yeah. And the rabbit, I never even saw the rabbit. I think the hawk kind of had that weird, like, they get tunnel vision. They don't even see the rabbit. They didn't even see the car until woof. And then he was on the other side of the car just sitting there. So I definitely I take a ton of, I don't even fly around power poles anymore. I take a lot of like precaution, but if you fly, and we were talking about head count, the side effect of head count is, staircase or glass window strikes and close encounters with cars, maybe, or coyotes or power poles. Unfortunately, when we fly them, the more we fly them, the more stuff that they're exposed to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's what I was telling Aaron, because Aaron lost a bird, and it hurts. It definitely hurts. But, like you said, the more we have these birds in the field with us, the more that statistic of, 70 to 80% mortality in the first year will just come true. There's no way around it. You can't get away from it. It's there.
I think it is. We've been having like a big conversation because there's a lot of dead waterfowl on like the Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, like South Dakota border, like right on the south side of our state. And, right as the water froze up, there was a whole bunch of waterfowl kill off. So, and then in our state, we're dealing with a ton of avian stuff, avian influenza in like turkeys and chickens. And so another risk, right, that we have to figure out how to deal with. I'm flying like two birds at once, which seems like you're putting all your eggs in one basket with ducks.
Yeah.
But I did it this year to some extent. I don't feel like if I have a great other options, I'm going to keep hammering that button as hard as I can. But in the same regard, just like flying next to like a highway, there's like a risk to everything, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out how often I want to push that button because there's a risk associated with it, So
are the numbers in terms of the avian influenza, are they high up there by you in your area?
Well, so what, I don't want to speak specifically because I'm not like a vet, a person who's studied or learned about this. But yeah, they're like the the problems within poultry industry right now up here are hot.
Okay.
There's like a lot of in the poultry industry as far as like mass kill of ducks. It's not. I don't want to say it's like hot because I don't see them. They're not all over like the metro, but there was a pretty good band of them. Like the migration stalled this year a little bit, and it seemed like right before the migration resumed, which would have been about 3-4 weeks ago, there was like a big death in the south side of the state, and that's kind of what like has a lot of people in I know Missouri are kind of talking about the risks of it and things of that nature. So apparently there was a little bit of a flare right at the end of the migration, and yeah. So
Got it. Okay. Yeah, because I mean, I hear stuff here and there, but it doesn't seem like there's that much chatter in my area.
So the thing, and this isn't a unique thought, but so hawking ducks is dangerous because of avian influenza. Turns out hawking rabbits is dangerous too. Turns out hawking squirrels is dangerous too. You know, my goshawk that died, Joe, I had a goshawk died about 3 weeks ago while squirrel hunting.
that's a new one.
And then I had
I've never heard of a hawk killed squirrel hawking. I'm dead serious about that. I used to say that to people when they would ask me about squirrel hawking.
She had a collision with a tree while she was flying after a squirrel and died. Okay. So she never touched a duck and she died.
Never touched a window and died.
Never touched a window and died. And then this past weekend, my red tail had a collision with a fence chasing a rabbit and died.
That's a rough go for you. I'm sorry. I did not know that. Man. All right.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Joe. It is what it is. But my point being is it's all dangerous, you know?
My one of my 2 hair socks I'm flying broke a leg on a rabbit without a fence, without a branch, without anything in sight. Came down a hard stoop like 40 feet in the air out of a tree, hit this big rabbit. I expected to go pick up a dead rabbit. I walked over there and my hair sock is like wandering around on the ground, dragging a leg around. So had the leg like surgically repaired by the Raptor Center in St. Paul. And he like now 3 years into it, he's as good as his brother at this point. So it's kind of a cool story. But rabbits, I think rabbits are extremely dangerous, Corey, in a lot of ways, especially the later in the season you fly them. I said extremely dangerous. I'm not trying to make it sound like jackrabbits or something. What I'm saying is the later you fly them in the season, the more skilled they are at raking your hawks and in general all predators off. And the more of those little like pinch points that they've already established and have used over the season, like the lighter you fly them, the more they know exactly where they're going, and they're going to some sort of a funnel that's going to pull them off at a fence point or at a, just like you said, a fence. They took it to a fence, took it to a glass case or like a staircase, something like that. That's this time of year with rabbits, especially. Squirrels shocks me. But goshawks are so aggressive in the trees. And they're not as heavy built as a red tail. So if they hit that hard, I suppose you could have the same kind of injury, right? So yes,
I think squirrels would be one of the safer things as far as death is concerned. Bodily injury, pretty easy with a squirrel, right?
Yeah.
Can turn around and bite. But as far as dying, I think squirrels are one of the safer things that you could fly.
Lots of small quote injuries, not a lot of like season enders with squirrels. With rabbits, season enders are a reasonable occurrence. With jackrabbits, you hear people every once in a while, everybody has a story about like a dead hawk from a jackrabbit, but I haven't experienced anything too wild. But I've seen some pretty jackrabbits are just so powerful. It's like the beating that they'll put out and then take is just insane.
You got the chance to hawk some jacks pretty regularly?
I would be bragging if I got to say regularly, but yeah, every season I've gotten to find jacks and enough to catch them. 3 seasons only though? I've definitely missed them more than I've caught them, but I find them every year. Yeah, we've found more this year than I found probably in like the last 4 seasons, I think. Yeah, so this seems like a good year for jackrabbits. I mean, optimistically good. I don't want to say like it's good, but it's optimistically good, at least where I've been.
And is this in Minnesota?
No. So that's actually all right. So it's a big cheat statement. So Minnesota has some white-tailed jackrabbits, but Minnesota's a weird state. It's like the prairie and the forest meets in Minnesota. And like you can basically drive the line of that intersection along the whole state. Like on one side, you're in the prairie, and on one side, you're in the forest. And in Minnesota, naturally, we have white-tailed jackrabbits, no black-tailed jackrabbits. And those are only in that plains zone, if you will, right? So, so I've flown and caught white-tailed jacks in Minnesota with my current Harris Hawk cast, only half-grown ones, right? I've never actually caught a full-grown whitetail. That's a trophy, I think. I don't know, unless you're flying an eagle, whitetails are just no joke. They're super woolly, so that I've seen them get caught and caught and caught and caught and caught, and then they just keep getting away. They're not actually any bigger than black-tailed jacks, I don't think, at least from what I've seen. I've seen a few of them get killed, but my Harrises won't do it. They're not turned on by the way that they run away, rather than like a black-tailed jack flees like a rabbit and it's leaving town. So when I hunt jackrabbits, typically I go southwest from Minnesota. I leave to go to the various plain states. So Nebraska, Kansas. I've never had any luck in Oklahoma. And then, Texas, New Mexico. We're going to go to Arizona in a week. That's next week is the Desert Hawking Classic, which is basically the Arizona state meet. And it's like a memorial this year for that Harry McElroy. So we're going to go all the way to Kingman, which is like right by Las Vegas, I guess. And so it's like a new far for me for traveling for hawking. So I'm super excited about that. We should see some really wacky shit, including some hopefully small jackrabbits that'll turn my Harris Hawks on a little bit. But
they're not going to want to come home.
They will not want to come home. Yikes. We're gonna leave, and it's -8 degrees the morning we leave. I mean, I'm happy. I'm so happy. It's ridiculous.
Let's talk about temperature and Harris Hawks.
Yeah. I think I have a fairly decent grasp on that.
Yeah. So I would say you're pushing limits as far as where you can fly Harris Hawks, right? As far as temperature is concerned.
Yeah. 20 years ago, more, but now less, I guess, honest statement. But yeah. Yep. I know that sounds insane, but it's like based off talking to the old heads in the area, we're like 20 years away from 55 inches of snow on the ground. We don't have snow anymore. It's insane. We did two. It's not true. In the last 5 years, we've had 2 decent snow accumulations. But both of them, like our winters are so broke up by a pretty good amount of heat now. Like we'll get a few thaw days that like it's just not really accumulating. So I've really ridden the gravy train on temperature. But I'm still like, if that line where you can fly, can't fly, that's where I felt out pretty well, and I kind of know right where I lay. Today was 25 degrees and the 28 degrees, and there was like a 12-mile-an-hour pretty steady wind, and it felt cold, and it would have been too cold to usefully fly the birds. They would have been, not effective, been more cautious about the temperature and hitting things, then they would have been effective. Now, if you had 35 or you even had that 28 with no wind, I could have flown them and they would have been decent. But I'm feeling that line out, and I've seen firsthand that the females will take basically 10 to 15 degrees cooler temperatures and make useful flying out of it, where the males are a little softer on that.
So you find the males, what's the bottom temp without a wind, without a substantial wind?
Yeah, but I wouldn't expect anything out of my males. At 25 degrees, I'll expect something decent with no wind. If you get any wind at that 25, you're going to start to get crappy. You go up to 35 degrees with a little wind, and I'll have some success too, But 25 degrees, no wind, I can hack that. Anything worse, anything windier, you're starting to get out of the realm of anything that's decent. So, and it's a soft quit, like is an honest statement, right? It's not like they just sit or they like mine come, follow me around a ride in my bag or something. It's just you can just tell like, that you flush the rabbit and it's like a bad day with your hawk. You flush the rabbit and you're just like, what are they doing? They kind of swoop at it and they take a tree and they're just walking by, or they're just, playing the game so that they can get to the truck at the end. As soon as you take that final turn to the truck and you even look at it, they're like at the truck waiting, the classic irritation pieces. So
I love that about Harris Hawks. It's so funny.
The best
when they're done and they lay eyes on that truck, baby, they are gone.
We were in Kansas this last year, and I had my apprentice with me and a whole group of people, and we were like, I don't ever quit at the end of a spot. Like I'm kind of this like you got to get, if I haven't gotten, I have 2 hawks, so I really like to leave a spot with 2 rabbits because I get one for each of the hawks. And so we were in Kansas and we were struggling a bit, and we gotten 1 rabbit and we were running a bunch of other ones and they were not great. My hawks, I had a couple shutdown periods this year because of temperature, that it's hard to like reestablish them after those shutdowns. It just takes me maybe 3 days to get them back into rhythm. And we were in that kind of like not firing full stage. And so they had this rabbit, they caught it, and we were working our way back to the truck, and I saw this like little patch of grass that was like old community garden. It was like the most obvious, just goshawker delight / wide open rabbit sort of opportunity. And I'm walking through it, just like tiptoeing through it, like little baby steps, pushing, waiting for that one juicy rabbit. And I'm not even paying attention to where the hawks are because obviously they should be right by me. There's a big tree and everything else, right? And I get that rabbit. It pops right at my feet. It runs 50 feet across just virgin mowed lawn, and nothing happens. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? And I turn around and my apprentice is in the car sipping a Mountain Dew, and both hawks are sitting on the passenger side door,
Oh no!
like looking at him like, we're done, right? And I'm just like, oh yes, nope, scratch. So he's on a super senior year now. And I guess that's just how that works.
Yeah,
he's going to have to be an apprentice for 3 years now. So yeah, dropped. I told him I wouldn't drop him, but I was like, that cost you a whole season, buddy. But no, they're smart. I think that's where they are smart. If you want to talk about like where bird intelligence comes in, more often than not, it's annoying where they're smart. They've sealed some little deal that you're trying to trick them into doing what you want them to do, and they just kind of figure out a way around it. There's this really cool story about a guy hunting woodcock with them, because woodcock, they'll stand so still that you can get a pointing dog and you can net them, right? So this guy's like, all right, if you can net them, I can catch them with a male Harris hawk. So he got the Harris hawk following the pointing dog, and the pointing dog pointing the woodcock, and he could get it to the point where he'd see the woodcock sitting on the ground. And then he had some weird trigger that he would do to the hawk where it would cause the hawk to come overhead. It was with his hat or something.
Britney's, I think. Is this the guy from? Is this guy from Maryland? Or? Yeah.
He's an East Coaster. Yeah,
Virginia or Maryland.
Yeah. He had a signal, and it was all spoiled after a season of success. He went back to have the second season of success, and what the Harris did is it figured out that when the dog went on point, it was going to land on the ground next to the pointing dog and walk around looking for the woodcock, because it was always on the ground in front of the dog within 3 feet, instead of sitting directly overhead when the guy signaled it.
Interesting.
So it's interesting, but it is what it is. And I've never flown females firsthand, but I've seen them catch a lot of things. And they are definitely effective killing machines. That's like the most unexemplary statement of the century. But the females are really, really effective killing machines. So I kind of have like female envy when I see people flying their females. But I have a good time with my combination. And they're sporting on cottontail, especially. We have pretty big cottontail up here. Just being at the northern end of things, like I'll catch like 3.5, nearly 4 pound cottontail, and to me that's like, when we're down in Kansas, we're catching like 2.5, 2 pound cottontail. So it's a big, I feel like I lose a lot of rabbits. Long story short, one hawk will catch it and the other one will be slow to get in and they'll get away and things like that. So it's a good combo though for it.
So what are you averaging per year as far as rabbits go with your 2 tiercels?
Yeah. So last year they had 304, which had about 203 lagomorphs in there. The rest of them are about 60 birds from a car window. And then the best year they caught like 16 squirrel, but this year they won't even chase any type of squirrel. So it's kind of a bummer that that's fallen off. Although it was a hazard to chase them. So it was the reason they've stopped chasing them, was because I never promoted it. But it was cool because previously they would always grab a few dumb ones early in the season, the literal squirrel that was like standing in the top of the sticky stuff and was crying instead of like running and being aggressive and getting away. They would like pluck the dumb ones, the young ones, early, and before they really figured out what was going on. Now it's like they see a squirrel and I didn't promote it long enough or whatever, and they don't even chase it. But so I would say I guess the big number that I tell people is, so I have my one male who this will be his 5th season. And if I can get the combo to 171,
Jeez.
he'll have 1,000 head in 5 seasons, which is cool number for a bird, who was flown he was flown solo for a season and a half. And so the season that my one bird broke the leg, the first bird that I flew after the leg break and continued to fly took 243 head solo, which I thought was pretty gnarly for like a 600-gram bird, right? So, a 20 head day, he took 20 birds out of the car window in an afternoon.
Wow.
So, that's pretty. I thought that was sweet. Like I said, I think they're a great bird for a person like me. I think that there's there's a bird for every person. You guys know Ian a little bit, right? And I watch Ian's technique and his handling ability, his patience level. And it's like, he's so made for flying accipiters.
He really is.
Right. Or maybe like the whittling involved with falcon flying,
but
long winging.
Boring.
I can see, I know, but well, he's an Iowan. He has opportunities, I think, that are probably pretty good for it. But I don't necessarily have. I don't want to say I'm like a butcher, but I'm not as fine and finesse driven. And my big thing probably that drives my falconry is I work a technician job, like a kind of a blue collar tech job. So I'm on site. My boss schedules me 3-4 jobs a day, 5-6 jobs a day. And then generally speaking, my falconry resumes when I'm done with work for the day, but it resumes wherever the hell I am, and if I go home for an hour of driving home, then I'll basically miss that window to go out and fly, because I'll finish at 3:30 and I'll have to 5 to light, 5:30 to the dark or whatever. And if I don't go out wherever I am and just sandwich it in, I'll miss the opportunity to fly at all. And I've flown 2 goshawks, and I don't want to say unsuccessfully, but I flew my first bird was an imprint that was handed to me, and the first season I couldn't get it to catch rabbits. It would escort pheasants, and we caught a lot of ducks in really easy scenarios. But I feel like I got him working in that come with me to work, ride in the box. We're gonna fly at the end of this. No weathering time. That type of a routine. I got him into it for the most part. We could never catch rabbits. And then the second goshawk I flew was a chamber bird made by Lance Christensen that was given to me. And I could not. I got to cut 30 rabbits last year with him. So in the season we caught the 304 with the Harrises. I got 30 with my goss, which I thought was kind of cool. Technically 29, and the goal was 30, and he didn't get it. And so I wanted 10 off the fist, and I couldn't get him to fly off the fist like I wanted to at all. And I couldn't get him to really. I couldn't get him to play ball within that that time frame that I have really to do falconry. And so that's been a challenge for me. And that's a big reason I fly the Harris Hawks, is because they have enough malleability or flexibility that they'll sit in that box for 7 hours a day, and then I'll pull them out and it's go time. And then I get home, I give them 3-4 hours in their indoor area or their outdoor area with light, turn the lights off. The next day, the cycle continues, kind of a thing, and I'm allowed to kind of augment their schedule to meet my schedule pretty well. When I find a goshawk I can do that with, I'm definitely going to try to fly that goshawk.
Well, you gotta get one. You gotta get one and raise it yourself.
Yeah, I think that's that we were looking for nests. Yeah, go ahead.
Mine go to work with me. Mine go to work with me most days of the week, and we slay after work.
They're in They're in their boxes during the day.
They just live in the box.
Yeah, they live in the box.
Yeah.
They sleep it. I open it up and they're laying. They're laying down. At least in North America, the white ones. But the North American, she lays in there, and I pull her out, and then she'll just catch 2 and throw her back in the box. Pull out the white one, watch it miss 50, and then go home. Watch it smash into the ground right behind the rabbit 20 times, then I go home.
Wonder how the little piece of brush that it hits stops it so amazingly well.
Yeah, the twig boop, just
amazing.
The 1,100-gram albitus just flies backwards from a little twig and just. Yeah.
It's a
stupid bird.
There's one thing I've always amazed with goshawks. There's a certain type of cover that's incredibly good at foiling them, especially off the fist. And it's like this, that's a 2-foot cover that they want to come up behind this close rabbit. They want to grab its ass, walk right up its spine and roll its head up. And it's amazing how easily, because they're flying flat, they're using all their own energy to move themselves forward. that's why they hit that little stick or whatever. And it seems like it takes everything away, but it's because they have no momentum. It's all God's energy coming out of their wings, right? So it's
exactly.
but I don't know. I have a friend up here, and we searched for goss nests last year because we were hoping to pull. It's a pretty good state to pull in general.
I heard that.
We found a bunch of inactives last year, and then I think we found out that so last year was a little bit of an odd summer, winter, spring combination, and we feel like we were early by about 2 weeks last year. So we're rescheduled this year to go about a week and a half later, and I'm really hoping to find them. So I'd have to look exactly, but we went last year early March, I want to say, or like March 16th. I'd have to look at the dates on it. It's like kind of like reaching out.
To pull?
No, to nest spot, to find active nest locations. So then,
what are you doing? What are you doing to find them? Just walking around?
Yeah. So last year we had a little bit of an in from somebody with a forestry who had a bunch of nest spots that they had to stop logging up to. Although we found out that they log up to 50 feet within them of them, and that's close enough to make the goshawks relocate. But still, so we found those areas, and then like scouring like anything on the internet for tips, if you will. As well as sort of supplying, like we found a sort of a geographical like similarity with a lot of these sites that were known goshawk sites. And it seemed like almost everything that we hunt or pursue likes to have its own little micro habitat within this big divisible habitat that we can't see. So you go to these goshawks and it's, 100,000 acre woods, and it's been logged in certain locations, and there's one road that goes through it. And at first glance, you're like, oh, this all looks the same. Like, what the hell? I guess I'm just going to start walking and playing a squawk box and praying to God, right?
Right.
But it seemed like with combination of some sniffing hints, finding some of this geographical similarities, which involved sort of like a certain stand of aspen next to a certain break of pine, and then a bit of a hill involved. They kind of like to be on like this I don't remember if it was 1/3 or 2/3 up these hillsides too. So we were always kind of walking on these toes of these hills, and we never heard a reply on the call, but we repeatedly walked into nests that were just obviously abandoned nests that fit all the right criteria. And where you're either dealing with effectively a non-nest making species, a goshawk or a great gray. So there's not a ton of other nesting species that are going to put nests out in that area. So when we found we ended up finding 11 inactives. And we were like, God, we're just jinxed, I guess, right? And then we kind of did some backfire or some additional scouting, and a couple of our friends went in Wisconsin, which is significantly south and east, and they found that my friend Justin pulled, and they pulled like earlier than ever. I want to say, so like, what is it? A lot of people pull around Father's Day, is it? It's like it was right around Father's Day or 4th of July. It comes out to be kind of right from, I think, one to the other, the June 18th to like the 4th of July or something. Is that late?
Sounds late.
So
well, I mean, New York, I think New York guys are pulling around June, early June.
I feel like this is such a crappy version of a conversation. I wrote down some stupid notes so I didn't have to think about things for this conversation. Well, no, it is what it is. I just wish I could tell. So long story short, so my friend Justin pulled one, and he had one in this is an honest statement. I think I guess maybe I shouldn't even put dates on this because I'm not sure what exactly all the laws are, but I believe he had it in hand before the end of May. So it was before the end of May or the first 2 weeks of June. It was an absurdly early goshawk pull. And that was where we said to ourselves, okay, well, that site though is about as south and east as goshawks get in Wisconsin, which in Wisconsin, they come down almost as far as the center of Minnesota, like the center line of Minnesota. So you have that goss was a very southern nest. And we figured the guy who found that nest found it. I want to say he found it like a week before we didn't find the ones up north. And our theory is we probably were 3 weeks of separation on that nest because it was a crazy early nest and it was significantly south. And so based on all that criteria, we just figured we missed the boat up north. Nobody has been historically goshawks searching for the last 10 years. So we're sort of just starting back up going to try to find them in Minnesota again. we got a list of old nests that haven't been found in 30 years from the falconry group.
Good.
And then we got, we're trying to put it together. So yeah, we'll be back up again and hopefully find them.
Yeah.
We're going to go what is it, like a week and a half later than we went last time, which should be good.
Yeah.
So
the guys that I talked to that have success, they're playing the call, 4 a.m. an hour before daylight. And that's when they're getting the most response.
At 4 a.m.?
Like in the dark, like in the pitch black.
It's so cool.
And that's when they're getting their replies. That's when they're really, and then when they get the replies, then that's when they're marking it down. Okay, this is a good area. They mark it down on their map. Okay, we'll come back and check this again. And then they go to the next.
You're within a quarter mile, basically.
And
at that point.
if you found the old nest, if you just did like you're looking for a blood trail on a deer and you just start making a ring around that thing and look, I mean, you might find one within 100, 200, 300 yards from that old nest.
So
it's interesting. I don't know. It's hard when you're just looking for nests. If you can get like a response from them, it makes it a lot easier.
So that's seriously nice utility. Like to me, one of the things I noticed, like we're out there, the other thing about 4 a.m, we're out there at like noon playing this call. There's a wind into the hillside. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, it just doesn't really feel like our call is going to go very far in this type of condition. Like it'll go a long ways downwind, I suppose. In the same regard, I kind of like the idea of just being able to go out in some weird, dead, silent twilight and play that out. And yeah, it's 4 a.m.
I don't know if it's exactly
we'll give it a
4,
crack
but it's like an hour before daylight, like before dawn, like an hour before dawn.
Yeah.
You'll hear the male and the female just calling back and forth to each other. And if you're sneaking in there and you play that and you're in their territory, they're going to answer. Well,
I'm going to let you know if it works out for us because that would be sweet.
Yeah, and it's fascinating what you said about the habitat because it's like it all looks the same, but they always like a transitional space from what I read. And each state's different and each region's different, but it's usually like where one stand of trees transfers to another type of tree. But that's not always the case because you'll find them in the middle of the hardwoods, you'll find them in the middle of the evergreens, and everywhere in between. So it's really a legit needle in a haystack. But
so I did find one thing. So we were up looking last year, March 17th, which is historically about a week before when people would go looking, or a little better than that. It was just this early spring last year, like because we had no frost in the ground last winter. Like usually there's like 3 feet of frost. We had 0. And so we were like, oh, it'll be an early spring. But just, it seemed like the woods hadn't even woken up yet. We're up there. It's warm. It's nice. There's no snow. It just seemed like a wasteland. Yeah. So it was like kind of our concepts of like, well, I don't know what that means. I have no, but we were early. Comparing it to what Shaw, who was helping us kind of get through and in on this, was a lot of experience in Wisconsin, sort of mashing that against what he knows. That was our outcome.
Yeah. I mean, you're kind of like, you're kind of forging through, like, because apparently you said 10 years ago somebody was really looking, and now no one's really looking now. So you're kind of the guys that are looking now. So yeah,
I think that's really cool to build a community of guys looking for nests in your state.
We got super fortunate. One of the apprentices to my friend Justin has a cabin up in goshawk country. So it's like, what a sweet thing. Yeah, I was just saying,
like a good apprentice.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, hey, you got to find a way to suffer him an extra year so you can keep him under the wing, Yeah. Like, again, you got to hope that he calls the birds to the car or something like that.
Yeah. No, finding goshawk nest, I think more people should be looking for them. I think it was before all of these amazing people that are breeding goshawks for us to buy and fly. I think the culture of looking for nests was more robust, and I think even though we can buy them whenever we want, I think it's still part of our heritage as falconers to really put boots on the ground and find nests, not only for ourselves, but and the beauty of it, taking a wild bird. I mean, I know what I'm doing is, blasphemous, flying these captive bred hybrid creatures. I know it's not traditional falconry, and I'm very much aware of that. So I want to fly a wild bird taken from a nest or a passage. But I think a lot of the newer generation of falconers, they don't really have this drive to go look and really know about these birds. They just are just content to just save up their pennies at their job and then buy a bird and fly one. I think it's a different thing when you can find your own and pull it. And you know what I mean?
Well, very, very few states have the luxury of having wild goshawks that nest there. And so if you're fortunate enough to live in a state that does have nesting goshawks, I would encourage you guys and gals to build a community and start 100%. Looking for those nests. Like our friend Joe is.
That's
right. I worry a little bit. I'll share one kind of piece, and like sometimes people go overboard on this, so I think it's taken with a grain of salt or whatever. But if again 10 years ago, the DNR in Minnesota, so Natural Resources Department, basically said, "Hey, look, nobody's taken a goshawk in like 5 years." And so you're not utilizing it. And there's a report that we have that says that, we went out looking for these historic nest sites and we didn't find them. And so the population has to be down. So we're eliminating all these reasons that goshawk population is going down. And we were apparently at the tip of the spear for that. So we were going to lose in like 2013, I think we were going to lose wild take on IS.
Oh, no.
And they kind of came to like this 11th hour decision and bit of a battle with the resources department, and they kept it. But upon re-examination of this whole thing, every once in a while it'll come up in like a shit fest where somebody is like, well, you guys are going to take goshawk take, and they'll go, well, nobody was using it. We weren't taking away anything. And it's a unique piece. Like you still gotta push those buttons every once in a while to make sure that somebody knows they're getting utilized. I think over the last like 10 years, nobody from Minnesota has taken one, and 3 people from out of state have came in and found them. So so it's like props to those people that are getting it done. And at least somebody is utilizing it, because we're not going to affect that population in a tangible way.
No.
Right.
If anything, you're helping the population because you're removing an IS from the nest, so it makes it easier on the parents, easier on the ISs left in the nest, and it helps. And when we climb, not me, I haven't climbed my own nest. I'm too much of a coward. I'm being told, I'm being told this year that because I have an opportunity to pull one this year if the nests are active and whatever, that I can't pull my own bird unless I climb it. So now I have to. Dude, and it's not my cup of tea. I'm not. Look at me, dude. I'm not built for climbing, dude.
He's built like a dwarf.
It's like trying to get
Lord
Gimli to climb a straight tree. It's not happening.
So you got to get the hook shot thing where you shoot over the top of the nest or over the limb, and then the ascender, right? You do, because I'm fucking horrified of this. I've struggled with this same equation in my head because I'm not going to take an IS that somebody else pulls for me. But if I get to that point, I'm going to have to climb that tree. So I want to go up and over with my rope. So I'm over the top of whatever the hell it is. And then an ascender will allow me to use my downward strength that I'm used to using to go up. That's my plan. So so supposedly for like people that are not built for climbing, you can use an ascender and then still pretty comfortably go up.
Yeah.
So
I've heard that same thing, that the ascender is the way to go.
Yeah, not some weird climbing thing on the tree or whatever. But basically, you got to get up and over the nest, and then you pull yourself up there. So it should be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So so you're gonna hope you're toying with that this spring potentially.
Yeah. So we have a group of people that we go up north with. I will not share the location or the names.
Yeah.
But
nice.
But, yes, it's It's actually in your backyard.
Nice. Duluth.
So basically, I'm like, last year there wasn't a bird for me, so this year is like my turn, supposedly.
Oh, yeah. And kind of the cooperative hunting aspect of it or whatever. Yep.
We share leads with each other, and and then we have a good group of people that go. So, and shout out to those people up north. You know who you are. You're listening, fans of the show. And so but it's just like I like my Paul and Phil, my sponsors from years ago. They're like, you gotta climb the tree yourself. Like I don't even think you should have it unless you climb the tree yourself. And I'm like, I'm like, it's scary, because the one nest was like 64 feet up in the tree. And I'm like,
yes,
dude, that's like,
yes.
I gotta work, man. I can't fall and kill myself or hurt myself.
And these weird trees, there's like very little canopy over the nest. So you're always like, oh God, it's like it's at the very top of that fucking tree, It isn't usually there. Honestly, where we're finding them, to be honest, I say that they appear that they're way up there, but we were finding them like right after the first break in the tree.
Right.
So you'd have this really long shot up the tree. You'd have a big break, and then it was like right off that big break, there'd be a secondary break that had the nest in it. In reality, it was probably only, I don't know, a little over halfway up the whole tree.
Right.
I guess a little more than that, 2/3 of the way up the whole tree. There's a big, the trees where these nests are, and probably same where you're at, they shoot up for 65 feet to get damn near nothing, and then the whole tree is just a little like pot, at the top of it, basically. So,
Yeah.
they're pretty straight to the end of it, or to the canopy.
Yeah, I mean, within the same state, 4 hours between the nests, we found there was 4 that were located, and one was a deciduous tree, and it was the first crotch. One was a spruce that was 68 feet to the tippity, like you said, 2/3 of the way up there, just in the little tiny little thing. And then the other one,
like in like the stick mess, right, where you have like the endless little toothpicks out of the tree.
Shout out Jimmy G, who had to climb and break the little branches on the way up, like holding on. It's so sketchy. And then another one was like just like this old, like I don't know the species of the tree, but it was like a Y, and then it went up this way, full trunk, and then went all the way up that way in the other trunk, and that's where the nest was. And Paul and Leo had to climb it and then switch over to the other side, while he's like 30 feet, 40 feet off the ground, and then climb up on an angle with the spikes. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this, I just said at that point, like, I just, the bird's not for me. Like there's no way I'm climbing that. Like there's no scenario where I'm climbing that. And Paul climbed it. Like he just put his gear on. He didn't even say anything to anybody. And he just strapped in and started spiking up the tree. I'm just like, oh my God. But yeah, no, okay.
So he did it mostly with spikes and a climb belt, and that's what you have to do on those pine trees, and you have to keep cutting those little sticks out as you go up and stuff too.
Yeah, when we're going, everybody's using spikes pretty much for the most part. You got a dog there. Okay, so I want to talk about dogs, right, Aaron? Let's talk about dogs.
Yeah, I wrote it down. A bit of a dog talker.
Yeah. Do you run beagles, or did I hear that wrong?
No, I have a mutt, but I thought he was a mutt. It was a mountain cur, but it's just a mutt, basically.
Just trees, bears, and
that I use for rabbits.
Trees, bears, and runs rabbits.
Yeah, trees, bears, run rabbits. No, so it's a mountain cur is like a American hunting dog, right? Is I guess a good way. Really tree heavy dog. So he would be a fantastic squirrel hunting dog if you were like a shotgun or a 22 squirrel hunter. He trees, he rakes really, really well. When I had him, like he was an incredible climber initially for like the first 6 years. He would find his way 20 feet up these ridiculous tree crags, and like that's I guess kind of like a trait of mountain curs. So he's someplace around the house. He's old. He's 10 years old now, so he's kind of soft quitting.
Yeah.
But so I need to replace him, and he's my utility rabbit dog. And then I have an English setter who is around, who's trying to mooch attention from me right now. And she is 2.5. And so I use her for birds predominantly for my shotgun. But with the hope that I'm going to I want to either use her for birds with a goshawk or birds with a long wing in the next 10 years. You're kind of like building a tool with a pointing dog, and hopefully we'll use her for my falconry as well as my shotgun. But right now it's just my shotgun.
So you go out with the shotgun, even though you got this pair of killing tiercels at your disposal?
Yeah. You can't make so I don't know. A lot of people have told me you can't make a good pointing dog without a shotgun. And because you just don't have control over those like momentary circumstances, and you're focused on the birds. So yeah, my Harrises have caught a few things with my pointer dog. It's mostly though when it's like, oh, it's been 3 days and we can't bird hunt, and we're in Kansas, and I just want to get everybody out. So I'll like dump the dogs, and then she turns into a glorified like she points rabbits if they stay still, but there's something about rabbits that really like encourages the dog to want to push them, right? So she's very stable on steady on birds, which is cool. But with rabbits, it always seems like I get like a flash point, and then she wants to charge in and push them. So I really try to avoid using a lot of her for my rabbit hunting, and she doesn't bring a ton to the table. My old cur still will like tell me if one is under a pile, or he'll still tell me, kind of the trail that they ran. He just slowed down a lot, so it's kind of it's time for another dog. That was my talker. I'm going to either join the Cocker Club, the Wiener Club, or some other unknown club. I don't even know what one, but I want to see. Look at that wiener. See? Look at that wiener. I don't even know if you're supposed to hold those things up like that. I heard that Jeffrey Toobin did that and he got banned. Man, look at that wiener. Yeah, see, this is the thing. So, and it's funny because you guys brought up the Cocker Club the other day, and I didn't even know it was a thing. I was like, I'm going to join a cult. So, yeah, Ian has these wieners. They're super, like, his are sweet. So, like, his new male one, Wasabi, is a total, like, doll, as well as pretty militant
this
in
is
the
her
field.
Mom. His mom.
That is? I didn't know that for sure. Okay. Okay, sweet. So, in dogs, and maybe you guys can hit me with your best shot on this, what I'm like desperately seeking is like a dog that is very has like that duality, right? So like my setter is a really shockingly nice house dog, and then like as soon as we go down a bumpy road, a gravel road, and she like gets the tinge that like we're about to drop, she's like starting to vibrate and shakes in her kennel and starts squeaking and making all these like cues that she's hot. But like it doesn't begin necessarily until we hit the gravel road. And I can I love that. And my old cur, he's kind of always been the same way, a little bit more pent up in the house because he really wants to like run the yard and run like squirrels and shit out of the yard. But for the most part, he's also like hits the ground hard when we get in the field, but comes home and will back off a little bit. So I really am hunting for that duality because you only hunt the thing half the year, right? But for half the year, I hunt the shit out of it. So that's a fair statement, you know.
Dachshunds are great. Snow is a challenge if it's real deep up there. So it's I mean I deal with snow and they're good in the snow, but if it's a lot of snow, depends on the size of the dog. I got Ginger, who I just showed you, and then Franny, her daughter, is like 5. I just weighed her. She's like 4.5 pounds, 5 pounds. So like if there's any type of meaningful snow, she'll last about an hour and then she starts getting cold and get tired and stuff like that. Ginger just keeps powering through. It's what you want to do. I don't know if you got a lot of brush piles, a lot of real thick cover that penetrating. It's one of those things.
So wiener dogs, also like the size on that Wasabi dog of like 11 pounds, maybe 10
He's
pounds.
A big dog.
That's sweet though. Like for what I'm looking for because of our, Minnesota's weird. I'd say our rabbits are not as much ground dwelling as they are like pile dwellers.
Yeah.
They almost don't exist unless there's hard piles and shit piles and cars and scrap and washouts and stuff. It's like, but it looks like I watch your guys' videos. So like, interestingly, the only place I haven't flown much is the East Coast. I'm going to get out to the New Jersey meet.
You are?
Or that New York meet. Not this year.
You got to come this year. It's going to be fun.
I had a potential job that was going to put me out there during the meet this year, and ended up falling through. And so I got to, you got to like work where you're making money kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But like, it's like I've been on a mission for the last few years to go to like kind of the hot regional meets. I say the hot regional meets, but like the Texas hawking meet. We're going to the desert hawking meet. The PA trust meet or whatever that gets a lot of hype,
so
right?
Good. The PA meet's awesome.
There you go. Okay, so and then there's the New York meet or the Jersey meet.
Jersey and PA are right on par with each other. I think Jersey takes the cake though, and I'm not being biased.
So these are ones like we'll make a run for one of these. We went to the Great Lakes hawking meet a few years back. That was kind of sweet. So like all those like kind of I call them regional meets, even though they're just club meets of big clubs that have kind of swollen into big meets, but definitely want to make some of those and see that East Coast because I see you guys, these wieners are going down these holes and the rabbit will shoot out another hole. It's almost like an English warren system, which, at least to a mini degree, right? So
pretty much 100, just not as beautiful manicured grass that they run on. That'd be nice.
Sheep either.
Yeah.
No sheep. Yeah. Do they? Oh yeah, and you guys just have blackberries everywhere. No grass. Yeah. So how big is Ginger?
So Ginger is 10 pounds exactly.
Okay. So she's pretty good size
she's a big dog, and I'll show you Franny.
Yeah.
And then from the same litter, so the same litter that Wasabi came from, this is Wasabi's sister, if you can even believe it.
Wow, she's little.
Like a tiny. She's a little rodent. She's got that's her chest. My hands are not that big, and I can overlap both my thumb and my forefinger around her chest. She's like a rat.
Is she 7 pounds?
No, she's like 4.5, 5 pounds. I weighed her the other day. Yeah, she's real.
That's so tiny.
Yeah, but she's almost too tiny. So she's a little like a dentist, little utensil to pick out, in the little tiny areas to get into. And at this point, Ginger doesn't even really push to get in the holes. Franny's the one that gets in the holes, and Ginger just marks them with her superior nose, and then Franny just goes in. And Franny's so small, she'll go in the entrance, wrestle around with the rabbit, and then the rabbit will push past her or jump over her and shoot out the same hole. Like, it happens all the time. But with Ginger, if there's no exit, Ginger just kills it, and then she'll drag it.
Can't get past
her. No, and she'll kill it and drag it out, which is a little annoying sometimes. So they're great dogs. They don't have a nose like a beagle. They'll go all day. They really will.
Okay.
And they're not so good in the house. They're not obnoxious in the house, but they'll pee in the house. Like, no matter what you do, no matter how much you beat them, no matter how much you go crazy, they'll just pee in the house. Right, Aaron?
There's no win on that, right? That's what I've heard. When the weather gets really cold, it makes it a little worse.
Yeah, they'll go outside, and
they don't want to go outside, so they'll
stand by the door and wait for you to open the door, and then come inside and pee.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. You'll put them out for 10 minutes. They'll sit on the deck.
Yep.
Tell you walk away, and then they'll make you think you. Okay,
so that we deal with that. I mean, some people have it down and they have a good system. I do my best, but I have a kennel outside for them, so I have like a heated dog kennel insulated with a heating pad. So they're outside. If like tonight, the last couple nights has been dropping like into the 20s, so I'll bring them in and just let them kennel up in the laundry room, and then just put them outside during the day, with the sun, and let they have their heated dog kennel and their food and their water, and they're completely fine out there. There's no problem.
So Aaron, you breed dachshunds, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so how many litters a year do you make usually?
It can vary. This year I'm slated to have at least 2, maybe 3 litters.
Okay.
Yeah. My typical dog. It's funny that you said that you like that 11-pound dog, because recently this dumbass that we are friends with said that his dog's weakness is that he's 10 pounds, 11 pounds. He called it a weakness. I'm like, dude, not everybody wants a 5-pound dog.
Yeah, if you don't have a million holes like I do, like 80% of my hunts end in a hole.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, like down by Aaron, like I went down there because I thought he was full of it. So we go down. Those rabbits are not running in holes, man. They're not running in holes. They're really not. They're just running around or going under debris that they're hiding under. And his size dog can get right in there. Ginger can get right in there. But these little holes that are frozen into this little, like Franny just wiggles in. And once she's in, it's game over.
All you find in holes here are skunks and possums.
Apparently.
We're more in that biome. That's more Minnesota. Like the skunks, possums are in the holes. And the rabbits will like use the holes, but it doesn't seem like it's their first choice.
Right.
Their first choice is to sit on some transitional seam and then run to hard cover, rake off whatever's on them, and then go for that play. And then if that works, then they might saunter over to a casual hole and go in it. But yeah, it's like, and they're usually here, these holes are usually one-sided. I don't know if that's the case where you guys are at, but like here, you're generally sending the dog, the hole is going one way. It's not coming out.
Yeah.
So
it's common.
Yeah. And I don't know why. I mean, because if you look at the landscape, it essentially looks the same as it does in Jersey as it does here.
Pretty much.
But for one reason or another, in Maryland, Jersey, New York, there's all those little holes that have, 2 or 3 entrances and exits per system. But as Casey saw, we don't really have them here. But those 11-pound dogs are more hardy in the snow.
Way tougher, way grittier. It's funny watching Ginger and Franny, because Franny is what Franny's job entails. She excels at it by leaps and bounds.
She's like the tool.
But I don't really have any use for her. She'll flush her own rabbits. We saw in North Carolina, right, Aaron? Franny, she flushed quite a few by herself. But Ginger's like the Beagle hybrid. Like, she's pushing, she's trailing, she's trying to get in the holes. She's just a little too big to be real good at hole work. And that's the way most dachshund people like us and like, even Teddy Moritz, like, the bigger ones seem to have like a really good nose, like from what I've seen. And the little ones, the nose kind of is a little less, but their just ability to get in those tight spots and keep that rabbit moving is just worth its weight in gold to do that.
I have a friend, one of the guy who actually has that cabin up north in goshawk country, has a Teddy Moritz dog that's like whelped out and was like born 3 weeks ago or something like that. Yeah. He's getting pictures of it. So it's cool. I'm going to see a little bit of firsthand of it this spring. So that'll be pretty rad. I'm excited to see that. I don't know how big, I think it's a she.
Yeah.
I don't know how big she's going to be, but yeah, it'll be sweet. Yeah. So
size varies in litter.
Okay. That's what you were saying. You're saying a 5-pound dog was born from the same one as Wasabi, which
crazy.
was 11
crazy.
Yeah. He's
huge.
I'd push for that bigger dog. I think you would allow him to a little bit more use in the snow, and the piles up here are like my 28-pound dog can pretend like he can get into a lot of the piles up here, at least enough to be effective and scare some of the rabbits out. I'd think like a 12-pound dog, 10-pound dog would be able to just be an absolute, weasel, basically. Yeah. Like I said, Ian's been sandbagging me because he plays. All he does is hunts pheasants with this goshawk. And he never really takes me out with the new wiener and this new goshawk. So I'm waiting for some snow to come, and then I'll pester him, and he'll finally cave and go hunt some rabbits with me and the little dogs, because I'd like to see that combination go. I haven't really seen Wasabi work, other than like for fun, like off the falconry season. I saw him like cut some rabbits up. I was like, oh, that's pretty sweet. But yeah, that was kind of training and stuff. So
it's fun. And the cockers are awesome too. I think about getting a cocker. Cockers
thinking about getting everything. You're worse than me.
No, if my wife wasn't like anti-dog, I'd have one good beagle. I'd have a coonhound. I'd have my dachshunds, and I'd probably have a cocker and a lurcher. That's what I'd have at the house.
What about a bear hound?
I can't run them in my state, so there's no point in investing the time into one to just not be able to use it for its God-given intended purpose and historical use practice. It's ridiculous.
So not allowed to use dogs for bear,
no,
right?
It's ridiculous. It's such a.
I think you can do it in Minnesota, can't you?
You can. Yes. Yeah. You can.
Liberal ass Minnesota case.
I know, it's crazy, right?
Dude, Minnesota is super strange. We have this conversation with everyone. I can buy like 30-round clips. I can buy like anything, everything. Like Minnesota is a very, it's a hunting culture, gun culture state. So it's cool for that reason. Like in general, hunting is like a thing that you don't fuck with so much in Minnesota. Most people do it in some fashion. Right now, the roar in the state is that the wolves have been replaced, and they're just crushing. Well, something mysteriously is crushing the native deer population in the northern half of the state where the wolves exist. And the discussion is it the wolves, right? And everybody that's up there thinks it is. So yeah, that's this hunting culture concept is like, they really kicked a beehive in that the main piece of hunting culture in Minnesota probably is deer hunting. And that's made a bit of a mess, is nobody can go up to like the public land in the northern part of the state. There's a ton of public land in the northern half of our state. And that's like kind of historically where people would go deer hunting. If you didn't have private access in the southern half of the state, you might have had like a weird 100-year lease or some sort of real easy access up there. And that's where like the herd has been decimated and hasn't necessarily been hard winners as much as some other mysterious, long-legged,
Pretty
dark.
cool to have wolves, though.
It's pretty cool. It's weird when you pull out of a road up north and you're like slowly turning left and one is slowly vanishing into the woods, right? Yeah. Like you don't know they're there. One of the coolest hunts, because I know that's what the bit on this podcast is, the coolest hunts that people have been doing in northern Minnesota is that with the low snow totals the last 10 years, they've been running dogs on bobcats.
That's cool.
Or I guess maybe lynx, technically. I'm not a biologist, but running dogs on lynx and following with horse.
Oh, that's cool.
And you're seeing it, and I think they're guides, selling this kind of service, if you will, but it looks so cool. You're up on logging roads with like these mules or whatever, and you're just clunking along, waiting for them to tree these cats. It would be really cool stuff, Minnesota's a really good state for variety. I would say it's not necessarily a state that has any particular amazing hunting of one thing. My like rabbit totals are simply because I go and I hunt pretty close to the urban environment, right? If you were to go out to like management land outside of the metro area, you're going to catch a few, you might see a few rabbits, you're going to run a few rabbits, but it's not like, you'd be better suited to go to like Nebraska and find open land, right?
Minnesota, so what kind of spots are you looking for in your urban, suburban areas?
So like, all right, pro tips, right? Start with water towers, schools,
parks.
We have a 5-part list that we kind of like go to a town and we like break down. But long story short,
let's go through that list. Come on.
So you start with the water tower. You got to always check the water tower. You got to always check the wall.
Why is that?
It's just, these are just pieces you will find. Like if you go through, you take this list of this checklist and you walk into a random town and you need to find a spot, you go right down this checklist, and I about bet before you hit the end of it, you'll be like, there's rabbits here.
Oh, cool. Tell us.
So you start with a water tower, you go to Walmart. This is not patent just me. This would be Justin Johnson's bit. You find new housing developments and go to the new housing developments. You check near the schools, because a lot of times schools will have an extant undeveloped like area. Don't want to call it a nature area. And then, there's a fourth one I'm leaving out. You check campground areas. So if you go into a town, you check the water tower, the Walmart, the schools for a campground, and
industrial park.
And industrial parks like railroad tracks, right, are like kind of, that's like almost your Bible of falconry. But it's interesting because if you go to like a lot of the plain states, I don't have much luck in railroad trestles. Up here in Minnesota, it's fantastic. Like railroad trestles are one of the main sources of in and out land and whatnot. But like I find that like, so like I joke, we put Walmart on the list, but like Walmart, Costco, Hy-Vee, Menards, I maybe am like making a list of things I shouldn't be, but there are a lot of companies that will buy land as well as develop a property for their building.
Right.
Or build their building. So like up here, Menards, for instance, it's like a home improvement company. I don't know if you guys have them on East Coast, but they sell like, anything to your house.
It's like Lowe's or Home Depot.
It's a Lowe's or Home Depot. There you go. Sorry, I should have shot that way. But they have Menards real estate. So they buy a piece of property to build a Menards, and then they always buy like 20 acres in the same area. And then what happens, they build a Menards and they don't develop that area for 15 years. So until it becomes more valuable, and then Menards sells it off to whoever the hell Chick-fil-A wants to build on it now that it's become a prominent area. And so that's a reason that Menards or Home Depot, Walmart, fill in the blank on big ass name department store. You check those because there's probably a piece of not occupied land, is a good way to put it, nearby that might be used for falconry. And that nobody is using for anything else. It might be outside the tire change bay and the guys think that it's cool and they don't care.
Yeah, right.
But for me, mostly I'm looking for urban spots. I don't know if it keeps the predators out or if it's just the various transitional like ground that people make, by mowing land, by throwing out junk piles, by fences, right? The fence is the rabbit's best friend. I think that brings the rabbits to those urban environments. And it's weird because now I'm seeing a lot of coyotes. I'll go in the middle of cities, like metropolitan area here has like 2.5 million people. It's kind of spread out over like 50 square miles. And in the middle of it, 10 years ago, you'd run into a coyote here and there. It feels like there's more coyotes, but the rabbits are still there, living in more or less the same areas,
probably
right?
Cats, to be honest with you.
What's that? Cats. Yeah. This is, I tell people this, so up here, oh boy, you know what? Let's just avoid this topic.
What? No, talk about it.
It's the pirouette into darkness, man. I do not want to go into it. Are you kidding me? If there's one thing that makes me like hum at 1,000 hertz, it's talking about feral cats. Like, God, dude, people up here put out houses. They heat like I found heating packs inside of dog kennels out in the middle of the woods. Yeah. Like this is, and you nailed it. You nailed it in 3 seconds. What are they really feeding? Coyotes. Yeah. And it's like, you go to this. So you go to the cat colony up until December, and there's cat tracks and a few rabbit tracks. And you go to the cat colony January and February, and there's coyote tracks. And there's no cat tracks anymore. They've all gotten killed and eaten, but not before they spread a bunch of disease and killed all the native population. I think I shared you that video of that guy who makes like antiquities out of cat hides, right?
Love that. Made my day.
It's just, there's something about, but you've said it before. There's something internally to people that the internal on people or inside people that they can't separate a cat from various other invasive predatory species.
We're gonna separate it. The Sporting Chance podcast is actually going to bringing suit against the federal government for allowing cats to destroy our natural ecosystems. Yeah, no, the amount of damage that they cause. Why are they not? Why is nobody suing them? They're suing us for opening up the grizzly bear hunt after they've reached critical mass and the hunt can reopen per the agreement. Why are we allowing cats to destroy our ecosystem with no repercussions to crazy cat lady? We're going to bring suit against it. I'm literally, I don't care if I die on the hill. We're going to bring suit against the government or the state and say, you're allowing these people to feed these cats, house these cats, and for them to destroy the ecosystem, all because you're too afraid of the backlash of you making it legal for us to kill them or to remove them. So I'm tired of it. Enough of this already.
We're going to consult with an attorney on this and see it. No, seriously, we are. We're going to consult with an attorney on this.
We're already talking about it.
We're going
to current consensus and the current reality.
To fundraise it, some special Cats Unlimited merch or something.
Yes, Cats Unlimited.
Well, no, I got to be careful what I say. So currently, in reality, right? If you shoot a cat, it is illegal.
Yeah.
It's
animal abuse. You go to jail. Yeah, they'll string you up. Yep.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Even in Texas, it's animal abuse.
And so what's so strange to me is like, you can't tell me that if you trap, neuter, and you release a cat, that the act of releasing that cat after you neutered it isn't animal abuse too.
Yeah, it should be a felony.
You trapped it, you mutilated it, and then you let it go so that it could die slowly.
It's either going to get killed by a predator or it's going to starve to death one day.
Freeze to death up here, bro. Yeah. Come on. It's so trap, neuter, release. There was this trap, neuter, release program going on in like my hometown for a while, and you have these Facebook groups, and I just started like I became known by like a few of my town friends that knew me 25 years ago. They know me as now the guy who doesn't like feral cats and makes a big show of it on the Buffalo Facebook group, which cracks me up. But again, like converse to me, there's a few people that just can't help but like want to love the cats. As soon as the topic of somebody found a cat on XYZ street, whose cat could it be? They'll just go into like some tirade about how there's so many feral cats in Buffalo and people, need to love their cats. And it is actually not untrue. I have cats. They live inside and they don't go outside.
Shouldn't even have those, bro.
That might sound rough, but they don't go outside. But they don't go outside. They're domesticated cats. It would be like saying that your chicken, it's cruel to your chicken that it's not free range. Right?
Yeah.
It's not really. That's harsh to say. Cruel. I think it's crueler to mutilate the cat and then let it go out and freeze to death, starve to death, or be preyed upon by a coyote or an owl. If we're forgetting about great horned owls, I think they kill a lot of cats.
Probably,
too.
yeah. I would imagine. Yeah. No, it's an endless loop of just outrage from all of us small game hunters, even the non-falconer small game hunters. I'm sure they deal with it too. It's just enough already. I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of it.
You really will. There's certain places where it's shocking how many feral cats there are.
Yeah.
And then like feral dogs too. If you get into like the plain states, Oklahoma has shitloads of feral dogs.
Just as bad, yeah.
Texas will too. Just for the record, you'll see feral dog packs on the edges of the towns in Texas.
That's not good.
So, yeah. I mean, I guess like Sladen talks about running into them in BLM land and stuff too. But I ran into them on the edge of town in Texas. So, but not near. It's not a. I don't think it's a countrywide epidemic like feral cats.
No.
Like they're destroying a lot.
Yeah, feral cats are everywhere. Feral dogs are unique to certain areas, and feral dogs arguably could be worse because they actually pose a threat to humans as well.
Fair statement.
But I think one cat.
There's no way.
Go ahead, Aaron.
There's no way they're as hard on native wildlife as cats are.
No,
there's no way.
No, I was just going to say,
feral dogs are probably eating trash and roadkill for the most part.
Yeah. A cat is a perfectly designed killing machine. They're designed to kill things, and they have every tool to do it. So they're not something that should just be allowed to. It's just like, imagine if we just went out in the summer and started catching, game species and pheasants and stuff. They'd string us up and charge us and drag us to court and arrest us, and you know what I mean. And then these people can just cut their cat loose to just kill pullets and stuff. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, get the heck out of here. It's not right.
I wonder why. I get it. It's because people have cats as pets and they're biased to it because of that. But beyond that, I don't totally understand the willful disregard for it. When you're out hunting, do you see a feral every week, every day? Like, how frequently are you running into them?
I see him on a multiple week basis. The spots that I go to recently, they're not really there because there's no real like infrastructure around, which I'm lucky because I moved, so I'm not really seeing so much of it because I'm kind of like in the middle of nowhere basically, and just working like a hedgerow or like a solar field, and there's no like loser hippie people putting out feral cat colonies there. It's more behind like the Walmart or the Home Depot where you're going to find that kind of stuff.
It's in my spots, damn it.
Yeah. I mean, I've gone to those spots. Yeah. I've wasted hours of my life beating brush and running my dogs in those spots just to flush nothing and find a feral cat colony and then just say never again and leave and never go back there again. I've been there,
I flew a red tail that never missed one. And now my Harris Hawks won't chase them. So that's great. Yeah. They'll literally lay next to them and not care about them.
It's a problem for us. So it's like if my bird, if my goshawk takes one from the fist in a beautiful flight, allegedly, like now I'm a criminal now because your stupid cat is running around where rabbits are and where I'm legally allowed to hunt. Like now I'm a animal abuser.
And they're disease ridden.
Yeah, they're disgusting.
Infectious disease and stuff on your hawk. But
Joe, I relayed the story about a guy I know that got toxoplasmosis in his eyeball from a feral cat.
You can go blind from that.
Yeah.
Isn't that the piece? Yeah, you can go blind from that.
Yeah.
It's real bad for pregnant ladies or something too. There is, we say there's no like health ramifications. There's not ramifications like being tusked by a boar or attacked by a feral dog pack, but there is ramifications of an animal randomly shitting in the corner of your yard, right?
Yeah.
And then your kid walking in it or whatever. Feral cats, like I said, that's a pirouette in the darkness because I don't like that. I don't want to have anything to do. Like, anyway, there's that guy in Australia has it right.
Oh, yeah.
That's the way. They should be. It's funny, so supposedly I talked to a friend in New Mexico, and I'll put like what value in this. Maybe I'm echoing something that's not true. That's nothing to do these days. But if echoing something that's not true, he said that if a town has a big feral cat population down there, they'll bring in like a gray fox, and then the gray fox will basically clean the cat population out of the town because they're able to climb and kind of get into some of these same like nooks and crannies that cats are, and they predate upon them. So I don't, how accurate, how 100% on that is. It kind of fits, frankly. But he made that comment. He said, hey, you get a lot of feral cats. You'll see the gray foxes. The state will bring them in, and that'll be the end of it. Like I said, fair statement, makes some sense. I'm sure foxes kill a lot of cats too. That makes sense.
Yeah, but it's just like, why are you spending taxpayer resources on trapping, transporting gray foxes when you could just say, okay, all 50,000 hunters in this region, you can now shoot every feral cat you see. Great, problem solved, and you make money off of it because we're buying tags and we're in the field. So why are we like? To what? To make grandma or crazy cat lady down the road feel better? Screw her. She's breaking the law. She should be thrown in jail.
There was a time like bounty things like this, right?
Yeah.
So it's
nuts.
That's got to be a significant reason. They talk about like why game bird populations are down, and the corn bill comes into play because they monocrop so much. You grow corn, you grow soybeans. You don't grow all the little stuff in between as much anymore. There's super clean farming practices and all this shit. But the other side of that coin, it's why I love the podcast, guys, is I have a few friends that are getting into like trapping and tanning hides. And I think that predator hunting, like when I got into falconry 10 years ago, there was a group of old boys that were just running rabid on the coyotes around my hometown, the town of Buffalo. And I made the comment, I was like, yeah, it's kind of cool, live in this little town, shouldn't really have a lot of little hawking spots, but it does. And it's like any place you go where there's suitable cover, there's going to be rabbits. This is not a coincidence, right? And these old boys they killed 62 coyotes from within like 5 miles of town. They were like literally a town group. They just run the sloughs around town. And what happened is they kind of aged out and they ran out of young people to run this. You need younger guys to walk through cattail swoops. The old dudes can sit on the ends and shoot them, but you can only do that so much. And over the last 10 years, more or less, that group has shrunk to nobody hunting these cattail swamps anymore around town. And I've noticed, I feel like that the spots around town are much more pressured. There's also a shitload more feral cats. But so like that predator hunting is, historic like gamekeeping involves predator hunting. You got to get in on that. You got to kill predators. You can't wipe out the coyote population. That's scientifically proven. They multiply, they make more babies to fill the void. But year to year, you certainly can.
Oh yeah.
You take 60 pups out of a 15-mile square area. It's a shitload of coyotes. And that's a lot of rabbits, and that's a lot of chickens, and that's probably a lot of feral cats. That's a lot of things that you're putting on manage at that point. You're protecting them. Yeah. So props to that shit. That you guys are fighting the bear hunting thing, and they're not necessarily like a predatory species as we think of them, but they're a species going unmanaged.
Yeah.
And it causes more problems, know? So yeah, it hopefully, I feel like there's a little bit of a return to Renaissance happening right now with people. And hopefully it becomes that, I don't have a lot of, we joke Minnesota's a pretty liberal area. I don't have a lot of friends that would give me shit if I wore fur, it's just not, I feel like that's maybe a thing of the past, not that PETA isn't shutting down tiger people, ape people, poisonous snake people, be ready, probably falconry people. So I feel like the general consensus isn't necessarily good for us yet, and we shouldn't like let our guard down. But I think like in general, there's a bit of a renaissance return to hunting. Sustainable harvest really fits well into hunting, right? Like you ended up with a lot of people that were eating kale and then have kind of gone like, well, kale, it's really hard to eat. And I end up spending more money eating vegetarian and eating in this sustainable manner. And I chase this, I literally am going to the same restaurant every day on lunch because they're the only place that'll fit into this weird little niche diet I'm doing. And then those guys kind of rediscover like a different way to do it. Oh, I could be sustainable in a different manner. Yeah. I just feel like that's been a blossoming thing for the last 5-10 years, 5 years, maybe.
Yeah.
And since coronavirus, right? Yeah. In a weird way. And hopefully that continues and people start shooting coyotes again. I mean, I'm waiting on a suppressor. So, like it's a good place to be, right? Like, let's wait. We'll keep waiting. Hopefully it'll come at some point. And then, that'll be that. But like good, hopefully predator hunting becomes a thing again. I'm going to try to get it going around this Wright County area. I've been meeting up with a few friends, a couple duck hunters and a couple people that'll just, I think we'll be able to put something together with those old boys again and start shooting some coyotes and make some fun of it.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun to shoot them. And, even trapping is I would say trapping slightly less work, but it's not. It's actually more effort than just shooting them, but it's more.
It's like more of an art.
Yeah.
Right. You're like, it's more of an art maybe, but that maybe takes something away from shooting.
Shooting is fun.
I'm the only trapper in this room.
Yeah, you are. But, the people that trap my property, they live in my county. Last year they took over, I believe, 275 fox. And I want to say like 60 something coyotes and a cacophony of, and they limited out. They completely, I think 20 or 30 bobcat. This is all in my county. This is all within 15, 20 minutes of my house.
There's fucking bobcats.
Fisher too in my neighborhood.
What?
And they're allowed one fisher, and they got it. They got I think two. His mom and the son. They got one fisher each. And then this year they hit their record. I saw them make a post. This was like a month ago. They already broke the record of last year. This year, in the same trapping locations, the same county, same area, and they already have trapped. So it's like you can't make a dent in these things. Really, it's ridiculous.
I think a lot of those species, I think they come to capacity and they die based off of supply of food, right? So, the coyotes are making the pups, and by March, they're either going to starve to death or reproduce. And if the rabbit population is down, a bunch of them are going to starve to death. And the few that survive are going to reproduce. If the rabbit population is super high and the winter is real mild, then they probably do well. Or a lot of people, actually, from what I understand, the predator population does better under serious winters because of the fall off, the death rate. It's like they say with the deer population up here, at least serious winters do real well for the predators rather than the deer because of the death in the deer. Yeah, they struggle harder to find food and stuff. But to me, I don't see how really serious winters aren't also significant for predators. But I'm again not a biologist.
Yeah, same here. But it's a very complex discussion.
Gives them carrion to eat.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. And I went out. We got a snow like 2 weeks ago. I forgot to mention this on the show, and I went out to check the sets because that's the deal I have with these people I was referring to. They put the sets and I check them for them and I just text them if there's anything in there. And I mean, now we're past that. It's like basically we don't talk to each other unless there's something in there. And I went out there fresh powder and I saw these fox tracks. And dude, I know right where his pan is. And the fox tracks were like right around the pan, sniffing the set, like right where the lure is. And I'm like, oh, and I sent him the video and he goes, come on. He goes, it was so close. And how many times has that happened since they put that set there, at the beginning of trapping season? It's ridiculous. They're just,
have they gotten any fox on your property?
No fox, but we got a couple raccoons and a couple possums.
Sweet. Yeah. The possums, man, are one of the reasons that they suspect some of the egg laying species are down a bit because
100%.
If you go back 20 years, 30 years, there were no possums in North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota.
Yeah.
And now they're in all of those states and it's just a piece, right? So my one cur is hell on possum. If there's a possum, he'll dig to the earth for it. There's something about I think they're totally defenseless.
So
they just stink. Awful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can tell, and this is no exaggeration, I can tell at like 3 feet away from the pile if there's a possum in it. and you just possum in that thing. Let's do it, and they'll get it, and a good possum is a good time.
Yeah.
But I don't know what they take. Is that hide any good? It looks like
no.
gross.
I think the hide. I think the hide's actually more valuable than you think, because I heard that they're a good fur bearer. And yeah, Aaron just saved one. He stuck his arm. We were just talking about it pre-show. You'll hear it when your episode airs. But pre-show, we were talking in North Carolina at the meet that I attended. Aaron's been bugging me to go for a long time now, and I finally made it down there. And the dogs are marking on a brush pile. We're ripping logs out of the way. I'm waiting for a squirrel or a rabbit to pop out of this thing, and the dogs are baying something in there. And I knew it wasn't a squirrel or a rabbit at a certain point. Ginger started yelping in there when something was biting her, and
they go nuts, right? There's something about the possum that makes them go.
She was going
wild.
nuts, and then she actually made contact with it and was fighting it in the hole, and she must have taken a bite from it, because she kind of like I could hear her like I'm like, all right, that's not a rabbit or a squirrel. And then Aaron's like, just stick your hand in there, man. And I'm like, I'm not sticking my hand in there. And then Aaron's like, give me the glove, I'll do it. So then Aaron sticks my glove on and just shoves his arm into this brush pile and starts feeling around in there. And it bit you, right, Aaron, for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah, it bit him good. And then Aaron's like, oh, okay, all right. And then he just keeps like wiggling his, and then he just finally scruffed the thing and just pulls this giant possum out of this brush pile.
There's no creature coon, vary in size like a possum.
Yeah.
You'll get like 1 pound baby and a 30-pound adult.
Right.
And it's like, not one cut in half on the railroad track. I don't know if it was like some sick joke, like, like a Central Park bear kind of a thing.
Right.
But I'm like hunting the tracks, and I look up, and there's a coon, huge possum, perfectly beheaded by the train.
Aww.
And I'm like, what the fuck happened here? How did you do that? How did you get into such a? I assumed that, we were like maybe 50 feet from a road, 50 feet or so from the road. I assume it got hit on the road, and somebody thought it would be weird to put it on the track and get it beheaded.
Probably.
But God, it's so big. So one thing I think of possum, now we're going down a rabbit hole. They'll freeze. They do this thing where they like hold their mouth open and hiss at you.
Yeah.
And if you put your hand in that goddamn mouth during that thing, it is like a bear trap.
Oh, yeah.
They snap that fucker shut. They'll go right through a hawking glove. They have cat teeth, basically. They're nasty as fuck.
Yeah, they are.
But yeah, I don't. Anyway, trap them, drub them. All those things we can hunt, but not cats.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay.
No. Yeah. It's a problem. And Aaron's a possum hugger.
Did you saved it?
You put it back in its little hole.
Dude, I gotta be careful. I gotta be careful, but my dog loves them. There's just, if I kept him from one, it would be a betrayal of my ownership of him.
Yeah.
You've seen like your dog return to youth. He's 10 years old.
Yeah.
When there's a possum in a pile, he truly returns to youth. Like there's something, I'm like, we gotta get this thing out, because I gotta see it on his face,
Oh yeah, it's great.
They're long-standing native animals here. There's nothing for them. They're pretty harmless here.
That is true, right? It's a piece that you're supposed to have 100%, right?
Yeah.
And I think like anything kind of that mid band of Iowa, they were supposed to be. They were not really supposed to be like, it's just odd. Now I see them all the way up to Duluth, Minnesota. So all the way up to like the true north, if you will.
Yeah.
So I'll see that on the road.
Yeah.
So
yeah. They're all over the place. Aaron, is there any direction you want to go? I have a couple things.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I mean, I don't want to go like jump back in time here, but like I've seen
He's gonna ask the cliche question of how you got into falconry.
No, good guess, but no, that's on our list, and we're going to talk about that before we let you go, Joe. But just out of my pure curiosity, I've seen many a duck caught before. By redtail, mostly goshawk, but like, what is the slip like for two Harris hawks on duck? What does that look like? How you setting that up? You got them both on the glove. Yeah. You got them both on the one glove, and you're just sneaking in there with two Harris hawks. Or like from the trees. Like, how you doing this?
No, so usually trees. So a lot of the duck slips that we have here, as the season gets colder, the drainage ditches in the cities will get like more frozen, but there are some that don't ever freeze. So a lot of them are like historical creeks are weird like drainways that are just, they're underground for half a mile and then they come out of ground for half a mile and they're warm enough so they never freeze. And those will pile up with ducks like crazy. Incidentally, they're like right away areas, so they have trees, right? So it's pretty bread and butter slip for red tails, Harris hawks, and goshawks, frankly, because the goshawks don't care if the trees are there. Harrises make the most of it. So usually what I'll do is approach with the hawks on the glove, let them take their perch with the ducks not seen, right? And they'll kind of go. Now at this point, they kind of know the direction of the water, it feels like. And I had a goshawk who seemed to know the same thing. He seemed to know wherever the water was, right? Like you could be standing in a parking lot and he would be baiting at this dent in the ground that he kind of knew the creek, right? So they know, they go up, they get set. Most of the time, like, in that situation, the ducks are not at the advantage. They're at the disadvantage. It's more of like a strategy play then, to where you're pinching them from either side to get them to leave the water, because generally my Harrises won't pick them when they're in the water. Like if they're flying with the creek, they want them off the creek. Yeah. So you have to pinch them, sandwich them to get them to fly off the water. And they usually get caught 10 feet up on the bank, in the air, typically, as they're trying to get up to speed, right? Similar to where a goshawk will catch them, but the goshawk starts at the ground and does this sweet ass rising grab, and the Harris hawks start in the tree and they do that. The guy in New Mexico, Mike or whatever, who darts his Harris hawk, holds them like a football. It's like, I can cast my Harris hawks. They're unique creatures, and that I don't do it. I never have really done it much. And then like I caught 10 mice one day and I was like, oh, you're getting casted. So I carried him out of the field. And then that day ever since, I was like, oh, I guess you can just cast these things. So you can hold them. I've tried to dart them twice, where you literally hold them like, like this, right? You got their feet and their tail is through like this part of your hand and you're throwing them. And they tolerate it, but I wasn't good at it. And I felt like, oh, I'm just better to just let them go. They've caught one off the T-pole on just like a stupid T-pole walk up. That was like really early before they knew what was going on. And now it's like, so really pretty basic. Walk up to a crick. The cricks are usually down like 10 feet, right? So it gives you a beautiful blind side on stuff. Ian's talked a little bit about how great some of the duck hawking is up here. And in that cold weather, from a cold weather duck hawking standpoint, they're awesome slips. For me, the finesse of hunting them with the Harris hawks is it's finding the days. So the cold weather drives the population of ducks on the creeks because it closes the options down. So there's only 10 options. But the cold weather also keeps my Harris hawks from flying a lot. So like right now, there was a couple of days ago, it was like -6. And if you had gone out in that day and you had flushed those ducks off of some of these, X, Y, or Z creeks, you would flush them. And then 15 minutes later, you could see them come back and re-land on the creek. Right. And you flush them again and they'd come back in a circle and land on the creek. And I'm not trying to make some weird advertisement for city metro hawking or city duck hawking in Minnesota. It's not glamorous, but it's abundant in the right time, in the right season, and the right environment. And they're really cool, really plus slips. Yeah. So I've until like 3 weeks ago, I'd never caught two things at once with my Harris hawk. So I never had one hawk down. I had oftentimes had I shouldn't say often, few times I had a hawk on a kill and an opportunity to flush for the other hawk and try to get a effective double tap. Right. But this, I was out with my apprentice and I had both hawks were just super I had flushed the ducks, failed to flush them off the water twice. So they kept going down the creek and landing again. And the Harrises were following them and kind of keeping that pressure onto them. And then finally ran them into what amounted to a dead end. There was a culvert where the creek goes into the earth for 100 yards. And the ducks won't usually go through it. They will sometimes go real brave and swim through it. But it was an effective dead end. And I put the pressure on at the right time. And both hens left just clear over dry land, easy peasy slips. The hawks were right over the top of them. Both boys grabbed them on dry land, and I had two at once.
That's awesome.
So cool.
So usually I find that one hawk is with the ducks, usually one hawk is more intentful than the other.
Right.
I have one that is a better duck hawk than the other, and he tends to excel. But yeah, in that moment I had both of them on a duck. It was sweet. It was super cool. And with ducks now, I try to get a carcass of like a rabbit carcass out, immediately trade them off on it, take the duck. And if I want to eat duck, I'll eat duck. If I want to release duck, sometimes I'll release duck. I don't know if you guys have flown like a male goshawk, but male Harris hawks are a little bit like a male goshawk. They have like death's caress. And if you got like a gentle, good grab on something, you can like things that are generally not terribly injured by them. Yeah. I've seen that. I had this male goshawk, and he had like, I called him Skeletor because you could wrap those hands around anything and hold it, and it would be completely unscathed. He wasn't really even hurting it, So occasionally I'll but with the ducks, I try to just get them off of them as soon as possible. It's the scary part about doing a Harris hawk is like you're 2 for 1 on them, right? So I get one infected duck, both my hawks are done,
right?
Like pop, pop,
right.
It's
scary. Yeah, but that's, dude.
It is.
That's super unique. It's not good. It's a very unique style of hawking. Very cool. Yeah, I don't know anybody in like at least my area. I don't know about you, but flying a cast a Harris hawk from the trees on ducks successfully. Like, I mean, I'm sure people do it.
Nobody here is doing anything cool like that.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. That's just, it's very, for me, it's unique to hear that. I'm sure there's guys that are going to write in and I did that 7 times. But like for me, I'm used to seeing a goshawk from the glove. They'll put back in, and then we pinch them from the trees, and then the bird will take it from the trees, or just the picturesque, beautiful from the glove, one shot deal.
If you got a good helper and a good pinch, right? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's real nice to have another person there, but sometimes when you're by yourself, it sometimes works even better because you can control everything better, and you just run in there and get it. But yeah, 2 people is always better for sure.
When I was flying my goshawk alone, I found I was drawn to the set them up and then reflush from the tree setup, right? Because I could almost always get the ducks to do like that panic flight down the creek 20 yards, which would then put the goshawk directly over the top of them for the reflux, and poof, off you go. Because then the ducks have a different mindset at that point too. We have a lot of people like the kind of interesting. Like, I think Minnesota has had an active falconry club for a number of years. It's similar to a lot of these East Coast clubs have been really active for a number of years, and it causes some cool like innovation. Like a lot of people in Minnesota were known for, previous to like anything I've ever done. I was shown duck hawking with a red tail, right, by somebody else who showed me, hey, like you can do this, and he's like, do this, he showed me a lot of these spots. And so there was a precedence for people just kind of getting out and doing weird shit. Crow hawking out car windows was a thing. Unofficially, I'm sure, technically.
Allegedly.
With red tails. I mean, what the hell? You get a Lincoln? You must need like an Eldorado or something and sling the windows down, right? Yeah. You ain't fast after you chuck that red tail. You got to slow down for like 2 blocks. And then like previous, like if you go to like a NAFA, which might be a sweet transition, but if you go to like a NAFA, and you run into people that have met Minnesotans in the past. Like apparently we used to fly like gang hawk red tails, which sounds like just trouble. But that was a thing for a long time. Gang hawking everything. The dudes up here used to throw their red tails up with goshawks and with Harris hawks.
Oh my God.
And just, I assume chaos ensued, right? I'm going to connect the dots and be like, I bet it was a fucking catastrophe.
Yeah.
But that's what they were known for. People, you go to Napa and be like, I flew my red tail with so-and-so back in 83. And it's like, you mean with him? Like you flew them together? And they're like, yeah, he told me to just let her rip.
I saw, there's a video on YouTube of a whole little thing like that. It's like 2 female red tails, like adult birds, like catching a squirrel together. It's the weirdest thing. You see that video?
It's gnarly. I saw the one. I don't know if I've seen that one. I've seen the one of the 2 dudes down in the Southwest, Connor and whatever. They had the black red tails and they were flying them in a cast, soaring them, and they were coming down like that. Looked like too much for my nerves. Like, oh my God, I get nervous when my 2 Harris hawks are in, and they're so gentle. Yeah. You got 2 Harris or two red tails throwing sides in there. I'd be like, whoa, get me out of this.
Yeah.
My hawking bag in between those 2 hawks.
Right? It seems like, pretty risky. I mean, it seems. I mean, a lot of guys will hack goshawks together and they'll chase squirrels together and stuff like that and all that. But at a certain point, it becomes like, okay, now it's time to I kill you or you kill me. It's like,
there's that phase where they change a little bit, right? And it's like that after hard pen, you feel like you're playing with a little bit more of a serious animal.
Yeah, that's usually when you can get a nice goshawk on sale.
It's so the key that I've been told by so many people, I've never experienced it. Maybe I'll imprint one next year, but like so many goshawk guys, like just your feet are stuck in the concrete. Don't make crazy moves when the hard pen comes. You just keep doing it and it'll get through it, kind of a thing, right? But the hawk's going to go kind of wacky, do weird things.
Yeah.
But you don't want to change and disrupt your whole, framework you've built up to that point just because the hawk is throwing up a little bit like a different direction. You stay with it and you'll get to the end of it and you'll be past it.
Yeah.
Right?
There's another philosophy of just throw it in a chamber till that phase passes and pull it back out.
Ignore it, right? To not get into that. Yeah.
Boring though. I'd rather just want to pull I have no hair to pull out, but I'd rather just want to pull my hair out and just keep forcing the issue. That's like my personality, rather than just put it aside for a week or a couple weeks and then pull it back in.
This is Harris Hawk hair.
Yeah, that's nice, bro. That's because you fly Harris Hawks, bro. These guys got.
This is Harris Hawk hair. This is like what you get when you fly carefree hawks.
guys bragging about his locks here, and I got no hair.
Holy fuck, no, dude! Seriously,
for the listeners, he's got beautiful curly hair.
Yeah, long, thick, nice and long,
luxurious. It's very sexy.
Yeah,
goshawks are so stressful. I tell people, like, flew this chamber raised bird that was a hand me down last year, admittedly, but I wrecked 7 pairs of pants flying him. Like 7 pairs of pants. Just running after him like a fucking moron because I don't have like the mentality to, like I'm all in. So when he's flying away at 50 miles an hour to go chase some shit like a half a mile away, I'm just going with him. I'm like going as fast as I can. Me and the dog, let's go.
Yeah.
So only to get there to find him with a rabbit in a pile. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah. I think before you make any hard judgments on goshawks, I think you should start from scratch, either with a chamber bird or an imprint, and then really follow through with it and then see what you think.
So this last weekend we had our club meeting and I went out with a good friend, Justin, who imprints goshawks, and he's done a handful of them and they've generally been good birds. Right. So he's got a female right now and she's pretty awesome. Good on rabbits, hasn't figured squirrels out yet. But like, so we're going on a trip to go southwest here this weekend, actually. And he's going on like a fishing trip beforehand, so he can't ride down there. So I'm transporting his goshawk and he's going to come to Texas via plane and jump in with me. So he gave me to handle her right on Saturday. He's like, I really want you to handle her. Just see how crazy she is when you're handling her. Right. And it's amazing. I pick her up off of a miss. She doesn't care. I climb up, stumbling to the top of the railroad track because like the railroad track's super steep and it's all this loose rock. And I'm just like climbing my way up while I hold this goshawk right above my head, and she doesn't even bait. I get to the top of the track. I hold the glove up a little bit so that she can kind of see what's going on. She's immediately just transfixed on what they're doing below on the base of the track. First rabbit, they flush. She chases it. I go and recover her, no problem. It was mind blowing, right? She caught 3 rabbits with me off my glove in 30 minutes. Yeah. And it was funny because after 2, I was like, okay, we're good. I don't have anything to worry about. You fly her. And then like she missed like 6 rabbits off his glove. And I was like, fuck that. And I walked in with my shitty, like regular glove on and I offered it to her and she jumped up to my glove. I held her up. 2 seconds later, one of the dudes flushed a rabbit right next to me. She catches it like 10 feet from me. And I was like, yeah, you just got to leave her to me, bro. But yeah, it was like I'm mind blowing with goshawks and imprints and like the difference between working and not working is just unbelievable. Yeah. But she just effortlessly working in that moment. I was like, look at this fucking thing.
Yeah, they're
so sweet.
Yeah, they're a puzzle, and once you figure out the puzzle, it's good. And then some pieces start falling loose, and new pieces got to be put in, and then you can keep piecing it back together, and it's. I love goshawks. I think they're awesome. I mean, I say this all the time on the show, and I'll say it again. But when my son's probably about 10 or 12, I'll probably find myself with a Harris or 2, and me and him will probably get out in the field and catch some bunnies and maybe some ducks like you.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
You know, just some nice easy going family time with some Harris Hawks.
They're like Harris Hawks have their place in falconry. I think like there's people want to always scratch this discussion about like best bird, better bird, etc. Right? And like I think it comes down to different strokes for different folks, right? And it's what phase of life you're in, and like what you're getting out of your falconry, what your falconry is giving to you.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like and technically the best bird for catching quarry up here is, I bet somebody could catch 300 head up in Minnesota with a red tail for sure.
Probably, yeah.
Like
yeah.
A red tail is a clobber bird for up here. So it's like I tend to believe. Now I have my friend Kelsey down in New Mexico. The best bird for his part of New Mexico is definitely at Harris Hawk.
Right.
You know, he's sparse flights on jackrabbits in open country. Yeah, of course. And it makes perfect sense, right? So it really, like, I think what you're doing, what you're looking for out of your falconry, it really, what you want to do with your dogs, like we talk about Ian, right? A big factor, and I think Ian grabbing that goshawk is that it immediately, obviously he wanted to fly goshawk. That's like taking nothing away, but it allows him to fully work his 2 bird dogs every day.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so like for him, I have 2 bird dogs. That's a significant investment in itself, and attention and time. And you want to bring those dogs home. At least me, after this year, I was struggling. You want to bring your tools home used, right? So you want to bring your dogs home tired. You want to bring your hawk home fat and fed. And to me, that's like the piece. Do whatever pieces you have. If they're not being utilized, then you're probably doing something wrong, right? If you're utilizing the shit out of them, you're doing things right.
Yeah.
If for some reason Minnesota's climate turns back around and I can't fly my hawks for 3.5 months every year like it used to be, I'm probably doing something wrong, right?
Yeah.
And you should change that up. So yeah. But what was it? I struggle with, like, there's a few people making like some of these cool hawk eagles and stuff.
Oh yeah, and
that's so damn tantalizing. You guys had Tom Cullen on, right?
Yeah.
And he was talking about some of these African hawk eagles, and then the Moglich is making the ornates, and then there's some, at one point there was changeables here, but they're gone. I geek out on some of that shit too.
Oh, yeah.
But there's so many reasons why they're so hard to make, and I for the same reason I've watched my hawk just fly into the top of a power pole, try to kill a squirrel and get electrocuted. I struggle to spend huge bucks, spending like 50 on a bird is like pretty wackadoo.
Yeah.
But,
it's too risky. And then every time the thing leaves your glove, it's going to be a stressful situation no matter what. You know what I mean? It's like you spend so much money. Yeah. How can you not think about it? Like,
yeah, you want to buy insurance on the fucking thing.
Yeah, because it's just going to become like, yeah, exactly. It's just going it'll just take the stress away. And I mean, like we discussed at the beginning of the show, like the thing can die at any moment. So you're going to drop 15 G's on a bird, and then like, I mean, I'm not the kind of guy that's going to get one and like just keep it like at my house and be like, oh, look at me, or like pull it out at falconry meets like these guys used to do back in the day with the fin birds. We used to I don't know, like it was on the East. I mean, I don't know about you, but like there's a couple guys who had some money and they'd get I got a fin, and it was like this big deal. They got a finished bird, and like they never flew it. They never did anything with it. But picture time at the meet, they'd pull it out, and
everybody would look at the feet, and it had feet like this.
Yeah, it did. And it was like, and I was, and everybody always, I would always think like, why is this guy not flying the thing? Oh, it's, $9,000. And it's like, I'm not going to, if I get a bird like that, like I'm going to fly the living crap out of it. It's like, what else is the point?
And it's not 1,400 grams at flight weight. So if you're going to claim it's a 1,400 gram fin, you got to keep it at 1,400 grams, and you ain't going to fly it.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah. You can't just pro tip. We're talking about pro tips. Never believe a weight that a breeder tells you the bird will fly at. No offense to our breeders out there, but
they tend to overestimate.
Yeah, you're not flying a Finnish goshawk at 1,580 grams. It's just not. I'm sorry, it's not happening.
It's penis measuring, right?
Pretty much.
I think
it's you
because I never understood that totally, right? So,
and it's not necessary. It's just not even necessary. I mean, the bigger the goshawk, the less stuff it's going to catch in my area. Like I want a 950,000 gram bird max. Anything bigger than that is just going to get in the way. That's just my philosophy now. Enough with it. They're too big.
And at 1,100 grams, that's a big fucking goshawk.
It's too big.
Right?
Yeah, it's too big.
It's big. Like it's big. You're past this point of, well, okay, it's 1,400 grams, so it's huge.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, no, okay, it's just huge. It's a huge goshawk. That 1,000 grams.
Jacks.
I was just gonna say
this is the key. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the only purpose for like the bird that I have. It doesn't belong with me where I am. It's not meant for the cover that I'm in. I'm putting the same amount of slips a day that I've always put in front of all my birds. And, we're at 30 kills with this bird. And last year, at this point in the season, I was at like 70 something kills, 80 kills. There's no, and that was a North American that flew at, 920 to 1,000 grams, depending on the weather. And anything that moved, she could catch it. She'd kill it. This bird is just like a freight train flying through this thick cover and just smashes into stuff and gets stuck and then has to power back through it. It's just not meant for a here. It's not. That's why it's just not.
They're like a little bit of a fruge mixed with a goshawk, right? I mean, they have that huge top end speed and a little bit of a lack of maneuverability. But it's where they're living, right?
The bird is just complete trash for where I live. Like I kicked one up at my feet. No, I'm dead serious. There's like 30 yards of open ground. I kicked the thing up out of the one lone bush on the edge. It runs in the open ground. The bird is directly above it. She comes down to try to catch it, and it's just so big and so clumsy. It was too close, and she hit it, and like it spun and like flipped in the air, and she pulled fur, and it was just too close. Like she's just too big.
Joe, I'll be honest with you. I have a hard time. I've seen that bird fly twice now, 2 separate occasions, and I have a hard time imagining it catching anything.
That's clumsy.
I'm dead.
Dude,
serious.
It's bad, man. It's bad. The thing is just like, it's number one, it's dumb. It's dumber than dirt. And it's just like, when I say dumb, I mean like Franny flushes a rabbit out of a hole and it runs 20 yards into a bush with nothing else around it. The goshawk comes from 100 yards away because that's where she sits. Full speed like this, goes to the top of the bush, and then instead of like a normal bird, like I know the rabbit's in there. I just saw it. Pulling up and landing somewhere no, 180 yards to the woods, 200 yards to the woods. Lands back into the woods, turns around, ready. And then 10 seconds later, Ginger flushes it out of the bush. It runs on 40 yards of open ground while the birds are coming back. And then by the time she gets close to it, it's already in the cover again. And that's just our life. That's just the life I live with this bird.
This is what that Ross Dirks' birds in Iowa that I would watch. She sat like wide and loose. And then you would look and watch the rabbit run. And then just out of nowhere, this white thing would just destroy it, at 60 miles an hour. Just boom,
well, yeah, that's her. I can tell that's her. That's what she wants to do. But like, that's because she
hard to get that open space.
Well, yeah, because she's an albinos. She's an albinos. She wants to be out. She wants to just haul ass across the tundra and catch a ptarmigan or something. And the North American sees the rabbit, pulls up, lands the closest perch right there, and is ready. And she starts wetting. They call it wetting, and she'll start squeaking in the tree of the bird, and she starts making this excited noise. And then Ginger flushes it out, and it doesn't even get 4 feet away from the bush before the North American's on it. And it's like, how do you go from that to this giant, clumsy, like F-16, like just hauling ass through the sky, like for no reason at all?
Dude, stick with it. Again, she can learn a little bit more control, but people talk about that with those big red tails too. You get a big red tail to crush squirrels and manhandle them, and then they talk about how they're just working in that treetop so hard, right?
Yeah. It's
everything. Every turn is a labor.
Yeah, but she'll get it. And I've said it on the show 5,000 times, but she's 3/4 albinos, so she's almost a full albinos. And they say that the albinos take a lot longer to develop mentally, and just wait it out, let her learn. Don't push her too hard. Don't slam her away. Just let her keep developing, and next year you'll see a huge improvement on her. She'll understand more and stick with you and be more tight. And I mean, she followed great with us, Aaron, in North Carolina. I mean, she was right over us the whole time. I was actually very impressed.
Yeah, she's got this thing where she'll take off, 100 yards, but she comes back around.
Like a big ass like survey loop,
dude. Like just randomly, we'll all be sitting there. She'll follow, and then all of a sudden we'll just be like walking around, like pulling vines, kicking brush piles, putting the dogs in, and then you'll just see her just like not on a chase, just like like a roundabout, and she'll just fly off into the woods. And you'll just see this white blob just like this off in the distance, land, scream, and then like she'll just come back and just zoop right over our heads and just sit there. It's just like it's almost like it's in her DNA to just go and then like come back, like almost like she's got to get out of her system. I don't know what it is. I'm still working it out. I mean, I put 9-10 really good slips in front of that bird today, and she missed every single one. So I mean, whatever.
She hit the ground behind him, kind of thing.
Yeah,
or what?
just
massive slowdown.
Yeah, just slow down, just like a giant seagull, like the rabbits running through the like it's just running through the woods, right? And they're like little saplings, and like the North American or even a red tail will like tuck and then smash through.
Yeah.
Like she comes in like she's trying to come in behind it, and when she opens up her wings, like she's just like loses everything, lands on the ground, then tries to like fly up over it and then follow, and by then it's already. It's just like I think in Jersey this year with those slips, Aaron, right? Like out in the open on the hedgerows, I think she's gonna do well. But where I'm hawking
a little bit next year too.
Again?
Like her like feather surface will shrink a little bit next year.
Yeah,
like it'll become a little bit smaller and a little more compact with adult plumage.
Yeah, she's just very clumsy, and like even just watching her eat, it's just like it's like watching a toddler try to eat. It's just like. Dropping food, screaming, like she's like a little. I just describe her as a puppy, like the North American, like at this stage was like just like a machine, like just everything. Killed a rabbit. By the time I got there, the thing was already dead, and she's already like broken into it eating. This bird, I have to get her off the kill. I have to cut her food up because she'll sit on it for an hour and just pluck it and pull at it, and the bird's just a baby.
I've had that conversation with Ian, though, that you benefit in some cases with imprints for what they don't know.
Right.
So, like, Justin's the best example is the damn thing doesn't know how to land in a fucking tree, and it doesn't land in trees. It just sits on the ground at the base of a tree and waits for him to come pick it up.
Yeah.
And then he goes and picks it up, and it's like, he doesn't know how to land in a tree, but it's nice that it never learned that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have to call it back if you want the fist slip, or you have to augment the flight and reward it for something you don't want to do. And you can get into a sticky mess like that. So you say she's stupid. It also gives you like that avenue though to manipulate that behavior at a very like basic level, right?
Yeah. She's just stupid, but yeah, she's just stupid, but yeah, I see what you're doing. Now, I agree with you that all these things are positives, but yeah, she's just very stupid. But maybe not just stupid. Maybe just they take, because if I got a hawk eagle tomorrow, they say that hawk eagles they take like 3 years, 4 years to So it's like I would be saying the exact same thing about a hawk eagle. I mean, this thing is stupid, but like it was
like one a year too.
I know it's crazy. Yeah, so it's just But anyway, Joe, is there anything else that we need to cover with you? What else do we need to cover?
Dude, I teased you guys about this because I wanted to stir the pot a little bit about this. But we were at Napa this year.
Okay.
All right. And Napa is always like everything humans do is a participation trophy if you're not like making money. Right. So it is what it is. Everything we do for falconry is for funsies. But my God, sometime in the last like 4 years. And so I'm at a table with two well-known Harris hawkers that wrote a book. I won't put their names out in the world.
I can imagine who they are.
And we are incredibly bewildered by they're calling people's names at the Napa banquet to call, hey, this apprentice came. It's their first Napa. They caught their first head, right? Here's what they caught. All right. We think that's pretty sweet. So I'm there with my apprentice and he caught a rabbit. He caught 4 rabbits at Napa and I was pretty proud of him. I was like, that's sweet. It took me like 3 Napas before I caught anything or some shit, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's pretty G. And so they called it, a bunch of people's names and they were giving out the pins for miscellaneous kills of mice. And calling people's, I'm going to find out I'm not good friends with them after this comment. I'm pretty good friends with a few people that I really respect at NAFA. And I don't totally understand. So I'm not trying to start weird
Shout them out. Let's go.
But, well, I know Jeff and Lauren pretty well.
Yeah, they're good people. We know them too.
I don't understand. I think you're taking something away from people who go. Some of the East Coast people drive 20 fucking hours to get to some shitty town in Kansas that from a lot of civilization. Okay. They go to nowhere, and then NAFA is a hell of an event. To give the participation trophy for catching a wood rat in the middle of Kansas seems sad and a little bit anticlimactic. And what are we doing here? This isn't falconry. And then I'm seeing tons of people posting kill shots with mice.
Oh my God.
I love all these things because, okay, if you're trying to get your hawk to follow you, and dogs, and it follows you and it doesn't, and it catches a mouse following you, there's a certain amount of good in that, right? But not technically falconry, because that's not really quarry as defined, right? So that's what my gripe on it was. I was going to give a lemon. Sorry, guys.
No problem.
I was going to give a little bit of a titty twister on that, because I go, what are we doing? If I was an apprentice, I would want my tag to be, or my first game pin to be for a rabbit.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Kids are for people that are technically catching birds, and they can't say that they caught, what they caught. Right.
Yes.
So they're why the hell are we handing out miscellaneous pins for mice and spoiling people's first NAFA kill on a rat? Come on. Yeah. Let's get this back to basics. Yeah. Quarry is quarry, It's got to be it's got to be quarry.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. NAFA went from squirrels as being non-game miscellaneous to now rats and mice are game pins.
Dude, so this is what's so funny. I went one of my first years, somebody's like, you got a squirrel pin now?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's sweet, right?
That's game. That's quarry.
This is 5 years later. Now we're counting mice too. And I just, I will leave a field over mice with my 2 Harris hawks. If cats are a dark place to be, mice are the second darkest place
and
to be.
Voles on the East Coast. Voles are a huge problem. This North American has learned that she can catch them with zero effort. And she will on occasion. I haven't seen her do it this year, but last year, oh man, the flights, dude. I'm talking these pumping flights, banking up, hovering, wing over, and I go in there, it's a friggin' vole, dude.
Brutal.
And she's over that now. We got a couple arguments over. We what the heck's what's the word?
You had a discussion.
We crabbed over it a little bit. But she finally so this year she doesn't seem to be doing it or have any interest in it at all.
They just didn't reward her enough times.
No. And I try not to be the guy that just rips it away from her. I try to get her to step off of it without a reward. I'll try to maybe let her take a bite and then pull it away. You know what I mean? You don't want to. You don't want to get a reward, but you kind of you want to discourage that kind of behavior because it'll. I've had a couple hunts ruined last year where she's chasing voles and there's rabbits running behind her while she's down in the goldenrod. It's just it gets old really quick. You can't blame them. Aaron said that to me. He's like, you can't blame her, and I'm like, the nice little tasty meal. I want to take a little bite of that.
If she was a wild hawk, she'd be doing as much of that as she could because it's easy.
Yeah,
and they're not challenging. Yeah, exactly. I definitely if I had to say somebody what I came in here to talk a little bit about Harris hawks originally, and one of the weakest points of Harris hawks is voling and mousing, right? Woza. I'll get into a spot. There are spots I can't fly because there's no difference. The last 2 years, I picked their weight up a little bit, and I found that I think flying them a little heavier, and they're made to rabbits, just like your North American, made to what you're hunting. That's been better for me. But there's been a few days too where I slipped on the weight control, and they've been a little sharper than I wanted them to. And man alive, they can catch mice.
Yeah, it's annoying.
And that's I've heard a lot of people say male Harrises are mouse and bastards. And if the situations align, mine are mouse and bastards. And I have to get out of there. You know, I don't enjoy that.
No.
So no game for me for miscellaneous. I got,
how'd you guys do at NAFA?
It was pretty sweet. We struggled for 3-4 days, and then we found truly the best spot I've ever flown in my whole life.
Really?
The last days of the meet. Yeah,
I thought the one
cool.
outside of Chicago was your best spot. Somebody was telling me
previously, but no longer.
Is that spot worth the drive out there?
I worry to tell you that because
I want to come.
Know.
Me and Aaron, we want to come out next year with you to that spot that I was hearing about through the grapevine and have a little sporting chance meet out there.
It would be badass. We're gonna go. So when we get back from this Arizona trip, I'm gonna go there for a long weekend, and I'll see. Check on how things have been developed and things around that area.
Send me how far it is. If it's not too bad and you think it's as good as you thought, you guys say it is.
Yeah,
I might shoot out there. I think it's like 12 hours. I don't think it's that far.
That's what we thought. I thought 12 or 13. Yeah. It's one of the rare times that you can find a midpoint between you and us.
Yeah.
Another one is like generally in Indiana is like another midpoint between you and us.
Indiana's
right?
not too bad, but we just can't.
Never been.
No, it's all right. There's rabbits that just run out in the snow and the cut grass. But yeah, if we go out there, we can't tell Mounier because he's going to want to come with us.
So okay.
Just kidding.
That's right.
That's kidding.
Hood, right?
That's his hood. That's his crib out there.
Dude,
John
craziness.
Mounier. Shout out John Mounier from the Falconry Chronicles podcast, friend of the show, supporter of the show, kindred spirit. We're all in the same boat together.
I heard he's about to cancel his podcast.
No, Aaron, stop. Just stop. Okay? Please joking. Stop. No. He's doing a good job. He's keeping everything
psychological warfare.
No, we love John. He's doing what we don't have the patience to do, which is be professional and have everything very organized. We just want to talk to cool guys like yourself. That's all we want to do. And we want to have fun. We want to make jokes. We want to be politically incorrect when necessary. We want to, we just want to talk to cool people and not, and John does a very, very good job of keeping everything organized, everything professional, and asking the questions that he has, ready to ask. We've been going for 2 hours. We've been going for 3 hours.
Dear God, yeah, we have. What the hell? It's a bit of a marathon. It goes quick,
so
dude.
it's fun, man, and that's the problem, dude. You ever go to a falconry meet and you're sitting, hanging out with somebody that's cool, and you're just talking to them, dude. Like an hour flies by, 2 hours fly by. You're just chatting with some guy you don't even know, and you're like, me and Aaron wanted the podcast to be just a falconry meet where we don't have really any limits, and we could just keep talking about cool stuff. So, dude, and you were excellent, man. You can talk, huh? You practice?
I can chat.
You practice in the field by yourself like I do, just rambling to yourself and muttering.
Yeah. What that is like sometimes the cops come and are like, this lady was worried about. I was like, no, I was just practicing my debate team.
Yeah.
No, 100%. It's actually funny. I feel like I don't talk to anybody like all day, every day. I even joke my work phone doesn't ring anymore.
Yeah.
Like I have this weird bubble I live in, but yeah, no, I guess whatever.
That's good.
I love. We all get up for what we get up for.
That's right.
We all love. So you get up for falconry and you get out for it. Have some fun.
If we start talking falconry, I'll just keep going. I'll just keep thinking of cool stuff to ask, and just the conversation will go. But Aaron has school tomorrow, so we do have to wrap it up at some point.
Teach those kids.
He has to counsel those kids.
All right, counsel those kids. That's right. It's counsel those kids.
Yeah, he's my counselor too. He's doing great stuff for my family and me and my wife.
Are you cheap?
No, he's not.
I gotta be careful how I solicit this. I'm sure there's some rules. I'll message you later.
Yeah. Awesome.
You guys, thank you so much for having me. I truly, like, if we're kind of wrapping up, I just appreciate, joking about John, your guys' contribution to the community is this. And though it's just bullshit and talking about, things and trying to throw some tips out, check always behind the Walmart and the water tower, of that nature. But it is community. It's the contribution, and this is another form of media that you guys are creating. So good stuff. Thanks,
man.
We appreciate it. good.
Yeah, Joe,
Yeah.
you came highly recommended by multiple sources, so we had to get you on.
Well, hopefully it wasn't a total waste,
No.
and we got to get out hawking like that. My big thing is go out, find it. There's a great spot you haven't found yet. Yeah, you just got to go out and hit it.
That's right.
So
Yeah, man.
yeah.
Good stuff, man. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for your time.